Still breathing. Nephi's over in his hangout, crowing about how he's right and everybody else is wrong.
Ah, come on, you love it. You love it, mate. You love it when he does that.
Hey, Regger. We're live,
Hey, you
by the way.
Sheila. Are you still off the smokes, mate?
Yeah, I'm still not smoking. Hang on.
Good on you, mate. Congratulations for holding out that long, mate.
Yep, thank you. I have to relog in, so I keep the feed live. Anyways, if you're not talking, I need everybody to mute. So if you unmute to talk and then mute when you're not talking, okay?
Yep. Yeah, I'm just not close to the computer, mate. Let me just go back to the computer quickly and stick on mute.
Well, I'm going to start screen sharing. So,
okay, well, hang on.
Oh.
This is the purpose of the hangout real quick because, as you said, Neph's having a hangout. I couldn't get it anyways. I know people were asking me to go in there and talk to him, but NeoCloud, like what he usually does, is he blocks people. And so he had me blocked, and I don't care anyways. I didn't try to get in. I just knew he had me blocked. So anyways, this is kind of a comical thing, listening to Nephilim and the blind leading the blind, or the clown car posse, trying to explain evolutionary theory. And they have this huge misconception, straw man version. So basically, we're starting this hangout. MMA, got called out, so I'm going to let him turn it over to him and let him kind of go into his little spiel about how incredibly orthogonal Nephilim is when it comes to even remotely saying anything of common sense or that relates to science or evolutionary theory. I mean, he just doesn't get it. He has a straw man version. Right. So anyway, let me turn it over to you, MMA. So go, man.
Hello. All right, this fucking cunt right here. Okay, so Neph points to this video that I reckon was made in like late 1990s, very early 2000s. And so I went on to look at the guy he's spouting, he's a professor at this university. So I get the name. This right is the guy here that did this documentary, quote unquote documentary. He's professor at Family and Consumer Studies, and he does psychology. That's just laughable straight up. I'm sure his publications here with those areas are very legit. I'm gonna pause my music. Very legit, but I mean it doesn't touch on anything to do with evolution. So that's
and what
one
do we call
thing.
a fallacy, boys and girls? Anyone? What do we call that fallacy when you
appeal to false authority?
That's
there you go.
So I sadly got rid of the video. Hold on. So I want to take my thing off screen share just for a moment so I can find it. Too many porn links saved.
Sorry about that.
You didn't see shit. Hold on. This is the one. Screen sharing. So this bloke here is a professor. He does have the credentials and so forth. Professor William A. Clemens, and he's actually got credentials behind him. However, he's got research. If you Google his name and you go to his thingo, you actually see that he's done a lot of research that fucking reflects evolution. This paper here. Oh no, it's not the one. Shit. I'll pull it up in a sec. Has to do with the mammalian evolution after the mass extinction event that formed the KT boundary. And so his paper literally just talks about that. So this guy's research is fine. It's legit. It's fine. It's perfect in that sense. And then Nephilim's using this bloke as evidence against bird evolution or some shit. And it's just a clusterfuck of. And I said to Neph when I was in the hangout when he was pointing this out to me, and I said, Neph, instead of doing a quote mine when he's being interviewed, go to the guy's research. And I didn't even look into his research at the time. And I said, I bet you'll find a contradiction to what he's saying to what his research proposes, or there's been an edit somewhere, or some shit like that. I said, instead of going to an interview, look at what the actual publications say about this topic. And the reason why this was brought up was to counter the paper I pinned him on. I pinned him with this paper here. Whole genome analysis resolve early branches in the tree of life of modern birds, and all that sexy authorship and so forth. And it does admit that there's still some incomplete lineages because there are. However, it's put a whole genome analysis into perspective, and you see a nice evolution for the lineages we do have. And it's raining, so I'm sorry for my microphone's picking that up. Pretty hard too. But yeah, oh fuck.
He also was trying to he's making brute assertions that there's dishonesty in the scientific community by their hiding data that we somehow if they got out it would all of a sudden destroy evolutionary theory, right? I mean it's conspiracy time kind of stuff. A lot of things he was saying was relating to obviously birds and cladistics, which is going to be more Isaiah's territory. But he's saying that modern findings showing that dinosaur and birds aren't related. Yet every single peer-reviewed paper and every single study is just the opposite. And he conflates Archaeopteryx with modern birds, and he doesn't realize there's two different lineages going on there. And he just takes all this stuff and jumbles it up on his head like a blender, and then whatever comes out, that's when he regurgitates.
Yep.
And it's usually non-coherent babble.
Did he quote Alan Fiducia? Did he quote Fiducia?
I don't remember him specifically using Fiducia's name, but it sounded like it was similar to what you were talking before about that.
It's also, I saw in his fucked up hangout where he's talking about there's been a whole lot of gibberish research papers that have passed peer review. We all admit that. We all acknowledge that there has been shit that has passed the peer review process. It gets fucking called out pretty damn quick.
Right.
Most of the time under a year. Hold on. Hold on. So we've got. He's trying to point this out. This hasn't had any controversy stirred up about it being inaccurate, and it's been circulated a fuckload of times in the scientific circles because it's so massive. And there's been no letters to the authors pointing out any bullshit anywhere. So far it seems pretty fucking solid. But I can cite several examples where papers are being retracted, especially in the GMO area where the fucking anti-GMO cunts publish the most bullshit papers and they're found out within weeks or months. So
right, and just for clarification, MMA, just for clarification, just because something is peer-reviewed doesn't mean that it's accepted. That means it's up for peer review. That means it's up for people to look at it and read it and decide for themselves. Many times people get into peer review because they have something preliminary. Then it gets either falsified or rejected, or it stays correct. I mean, so so when people say, "Oh, well, it's past peer review," it really doesn't make much sense to me. And I know how you mean it, but basically it just means that it's up for review. And so far, a lot of things that are up for review have not been falsified. But there's a lot of things that Nephi quotes that have been falsified and been retracted.
And like if you join Loop or some shit from Frontiers, the journal Frontiers, amazing journal by the way. If you join in, which I have, and several other researchers have, and my fellow students and so forth, we join up to these things so we can actually talk and email and just have a casual chat about the research papers. I've subscribed from Frontiers like fucking 13 or 15 journals already, and so I'm getting flooded by them all. And it's almost like Facebook, but for researchers and shit. So you can join up to these things and talk to them about it. It's not like it's fucking off the books, hidden, kind of shit.
So what did he actually challenge you on, though, MMA? I mean,
challenge me on this bird evolution.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Can I just stop you
why
just for a second? Can I just have a little? Sorry, Steve.
Yes, go ahead, Gregor.
You present yourself pretty coherently. I wouldn't mind if somebody could actually define what are the issues, so that we can, concentrate on those issues. It doesn't matter how many there are, so long as they're defined and specified in a way that, we can all understand them. A coherent listing of what are the issues, rather than engaging in this great big bitch and moan about individuals and so on and so forth. It doesn't lead to great intellectual exercise, just packing out a great big whinge.
Well, the main thing I would have to say, though, Edgar, is the fact that when MMA and Isaiah and Fiona and Sam and myself and all those have an interest in the subject, when we're talking about the subject, we're talking about how it's taught universally. We're talking about the facts, the evidence, the peer-reviewed papers that we can go read and decide for ourselves. We're talking what is actually taught. we are talking what evolutionary theory actually means. They aren't. They don't know what real evolutionary theory biology is. They actually have a straw man version, which is so ridiculous that, of course, I wouldn't accept evolution if it's that the way they put it, because
You
they
all
have
came from magic rocks.
yeah. I mean, it's just
Yeah, okay,
it's
so
just like,
this is basically a
and that's the
rejection of
issue. The
fact
issue is that
or a
we're trying to teach
rejection of
them proper
concept.
science, Rigger.
Sorry, Steve. So what we're talking about is them rejecting the fact that there is all this peer review work out there,
Well,
or that there is these years of scientific research, or are they rejecting the content? So is it the fact that they're rejecting, or is it the content that they're rejecting, or both?
They reject the concept and they ignore the facts.
yeah,
Any facts that refuse their worldview, they just ignore outright.
yeah. So
That gets to the next question: is there even an argument, for God's sake? I mean, how anyone could even reject centuries of research and
Right.
effort?
I mean, there is no argument about evolution in the real world. It's a handful of these guys who basically listen to this conspiracy crap and will go into AIG or ICR, any of those sites, and basically parrot what they read, not actually looking if what they're reading is true or not. They don't care.
yeah, and Neph said exactly that while he was trying to call me out, so I did join that. I said to him, and I pointed out that this professor, this researcher, his research reflects evolution. And then he said, and I quote, "I don't care what his research says, I care about what he said in this interview, fucking right here." So he doesn't care what this guy's research actually reflects. He cares about what he said in this thing. However, when he says that modern birds have been found in the Cretaceous period, he says very early fossils that do, I have to read up into it again, but it still reflects evolution. You still see that evolutionary period. Fuck, I have to pull up the quote he said.
Right, and it's mainly what lines these birds are coming from. Again, the avis clade, from Dinosauria. I mean, it is kind of, it is confusing to the general public. I don't even know it that well. I'll first admit, it confuses me. The cladistics is very complicated. I understand it far less than Isaiah does. So, I mean, if I don't barely understand the concepts, and I'm fairly certain that Nephilimfree has no freaking idea. But if Isaiah wants to explain to Regger, the basic ideas of the cladistics from modern birds and the phylogeny coming from, the other clay, the dinosaur clay, then I'd be happy to listen on that.
And there's, I'll
Hello? Am I getting through?
I've still got.
If the guys don't even understand the question, how the hell are they going to understand either the discussion or even their own argument?
Yeah, the reason why I rejected this debate is because people that are even far more knowledgeable than myself, like Thunderfoot and so forth, they've tread all over this bloke for fucking 7 years or so. It's like, I know for a fucking fact I'm not going to change this guy's mind. That's unquestionable. He will not change his mind. He's too invested in this. So I'll be wasting my own time. And in his own words, he doesn't care about the research. He's a dishonest little shit.
You can't possibly argue with anything, any entity like that has got to deny the existence of that which is undeniably, obviously existent. You no longer have an argument. What you have is a fundamentalist. It's a wall, and it's an impenetrable wall.
Yeah, and
there is no longer an argument.
He's been keeping that for fucking 7 years or so. I'm not going to waste my time on that.
That's why engaging with Nephilim is an exercise in futility. Nobody's going to take him in on a debate. It's not because they're scared of him. It's because they know his history, and he's very dishonest. He debated with Fiona, and he was very dishonest about it. He left before she even had her closing statements.
Oh, that's right. True.
Yeah, so I mean, he's not somebody to be trusted. He's not an honorable person by any stretch of imagination. And then he's basically he's explaining to these dumb and dumber people his misconceptions, and then of course they run away with it. And then Jungle, Jargon, and the rest of them have the misconception, and they think that we're lying. I mean, Jungle had the audacity to even call me shady or something like that. It's like, I'm like, how am I shady by giving you facts you can go look up? I'm not giving you misinformation that you can't go look up and validate. And if I make a mistake, then I make a mistake. It's an honest mistake. But I'm not trying to convince them of evolutionary theory of any sort by using any kind of manipulation or deception.
Yeah. I took it one step further, and then I started just to screen share. I went to Oxford Journal, one of the Oxford journals. I went to another one from Science Direct and some other one, and I typed up in both human evolution. That's it. And then I got page after page after page of from the genetics aspect, from the fossil aspect, and so forth. And as I'm doing that, he's saying that's not evidence. That's not evidence. You're assuming shit, this, that, and the other. I'm like, I'm literally screen sharing you from a journal all these hits for human evolution, be it genetic evidence or fossil, and you're flat out what the fuck?
Yeah, and let's get this cleared up right away too, because it's the same problem that Tommy Hall has and Jungle Line. I guess all of them. When they ask for a peer review paper, when they ask for evidence, let me make this clear. They do not care about the evidence in the peer review paper. They will not read it. I guarantee it. You ask Tommy how many peer review papers he's read fully, he will tell you 0. God, I sound like Kent Hovind on that one for some reason. Anyway, so they don't read it. They don't care about the evidence. Basically, it's a game with them. So you can present all the evidence you want to them, but they're literally not going to look at it. I even had somebody the other day. Ragnar, you're going to have to unmute me. Oh, not Ragnar. Who's talking? There we go. It's literally say, I gave them a peer review paper, and they started, or the name of one, and they started, trying to do a refutation of it, and I'm like, well, did you read the paper? Well, no, but it's obviously wrong. Well, why is it obviously wrong?
How do you know it's wrong if you haven't even fucking read the paper?
Yeah, that was my argument. I'm like, wait a minute. If you have not read the paper and you've never heard of this before, how can you, in your right mind, in 2 seconds later, try to give me a refutation? Yep. I would be like, oh, I've never heard of this before. Let me take some time. Let me go read it, and I'll get back to you on it. That's the honest position to take.
Yeah, I literally did this with Tommy. And I was screen sharing as I don't know. I wasn't screen sharing, but I was just reading directly from the paper. And I was linking it in the side chat. And then I said to him, "Okay, here's the title. I'll read it out. Here's some of the authors and their affiliations. And then here's the abstract and here's the conclusion." And he's like, "No, it's wrong." Then he asked me when was this one published in particular, and I said, "Oh, 2014." He's like, and then he just dropped it. Like, I reckon if I said 2001 or some shit or the 1990s, he would have gone, "Oh, that's too old." And sometimes I agree with that, depending on what you're talking about. But it was 2014 is like, he just dropped that point he was going to go with. And I'm literally reading it verbatim, and he's like, "No, that's wrong." I said, "I just provided it to you in the side chat, and I know by your look, because he was on cam, I'm like, I know you're not reading it because you're not, your eyes are looking directly at the camera most of the time, looking off elsewhere, not to the screen, and your eyes don't look as if they're reading something. I know for a fucking fact that you're not reading that." And so he's dismissing it as I'm reading verbatim. And as a side note, if you ever do watch this, Neph, I doubt you will, you mentioned Bioluminescence, a great book from Harvard University Press called Bioluminescence, Living Lights, Lights for Living. And a few of the authors are from like the Department of Molecular and Cellular Biology at Harvard, and so forth. It explains it beautifully, and that cover art, I mean, just I could jack off to that. But
yeah, and even if it didn't, even if there wasn't something we can explain it, I understand a little bit of the mechanism of the camouflage of the mimicry octopus and the cuttlefish. I know there's certain cells. I don't remember the names. They're like I'm not going to go look this shit up, but they're like chromoplast or chromo something or other, right? And they have this little dye in it, and they basically change color. I mean, it's not that complicated as far as how they work. But
we know how, say for example, the grand fluorescent protein works and how its shape interacts with light and so forth.
And it causes iridescence, and it causes a color difference, right?
Yeah, we know that.
And these papers explain this. But the fallacy he makes is that even if they aren't explainable yet, by him employing some other position of like design, that is by definition a God of the gaps argument. Yeah. It's a fallacy. He's just saying, well, we can't explain it, therefore God of the gaps. And that is not how science works. And yet we can explain it. Like you said, there's many papers that explain these phenomenons. But he won't read any of them. And here's the other thing. You got to remember that there is no scientific paper on the planet that ever is going to support anything that Nephilim says that refutes evolutionary theory. It does not happen. Not because they can't get it passed. It's because there is no paper that has the evidence for it. And so any paper he cites, you automatically have to take the position pretty much that he's misreading it. I mean, it's a given because he usually does.
Yeah.
But what is he going to cite that refutes evolutionary theory? He doesn't have anything, so he only has the ability to cherry pick, another fallacy, and use red herrings, another fallacy.
Yep. And as Isaiah said, you see, but you evolutionists hate science. And goddamn Isaiah, you lucky bastard, he's gonna fuck some escorts. Damn.
Yeah, they always say that they're the ones promoting real science, and yet, let's look at this rationally here. If they're the ones using real science, and how come A, no scientific paper in the world agrees with them, B, nothing they say in regards to evolutionary theory is taught anywhere in the world, C, 99.7, and I'm being really conservative with them, 99.7% of all world scientists disagree with them. Yet they think that they're promoting real science, and that we do not know real science. Is there some kind of cognitive dissonance here that I'm not aware of?
Literally, if they had the quote unquote, and some people hate saying when I say this, but if they had the scientific consensus, because it's not really a fallacy, because it is the science consensus, if they had that, they would be waving it around like a fucking big black dick, you know. It's just they won't shut up about it.
And the other thing is, if they love science so much, then how come none of them have ever taken any science courses?
Exactly.
I mean, literally. I mean, I'm not saying you have to be formally educated. I'm not making that claim, but I mean, I'm sure that Nephilim is a hell of a good photographer. Okay, but and he has every right to talk about these topics. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's not my argument either. You could be a complete layperson like I am, and I talk about a lot of topics that I don't have that much education in.
Hey, they all learned at the feet of science teacher Kent Hovind.
Well, that's a good point, though. A lot of them do parrot, not just Ken Hovind, but Ken Ham and the rest of the ilk, and they parrot it with such brute force that these things like literally are factual to them regardless of the evidence.
By the way, real quick, how good is my sound coming through?
Yeah, your sound's coming through good.
Okay, I'm trying a new mic setup, so I wasn't sure how it would work.
That's all. It's good. It's better than last time. Like one of my mates who goes to my uni, he does something to do with engineering, and he's a creationist, and yeah, and well, it's engineering, so I can give him leash with that. However, I think I'm starting to break him down with the science because as he's doing engineering, he's like a second year now. He's starting to understand the science, even though it's from an engineering perspective. He's kind of getting, you know, and so he's accepting. Yeah, he's starting to change his mind. I hope, but yeah, you can be in other fields and be really smart in other things, but when it comes to biology and shit, you're fucked. So.
Yeah, and even still, I mean, you know, I have to say, you know, when we have a disagreement with people, you know, that I believe are, you know, exceptionally brilliant people, you know, I take what they say to heart, but I also do my own research. You know, just today, you know, Hogtie and I had a little disagreement on some physics, and I respect his opinion immensely because I know he knows his shit, right? And I'm having to reevaluate my own position if somebody like that kind of, you know, tells me something. But you know, I thought about it and I did a little research. And I found out, you know what? I think we're kind of both right, and we kind of came up with a happy medium, right? We kind of worked it out because you know we both made some good points on it, right? And but it basically things that not in our field. I mean, he's not a physicist, but he is, you know, is a very educated person. I'm not specific what his thing is in. I think it's medicine, but I know he has a very advanced credentials. I'm not going to like state for sure, but I'm pretty sure he has very advanced credentials. But you know. I just had to draw back on my own physics background. And, you know, we had a polite discussion about it. We discussed it. It was just basically about sublimation and things like that. And this is what adults do. This is when you have a disagreement. This is not what they do. They just basically say, you know, you have no evidence. I'm not going to review your evidence, and I'm not going to read your evidence or even evaluate it. That's just not. Yeah, I mean, this is why we don't engage with these people. They'll come into our room. I'll go into theirs every so often, but to have a formal debate with them, not going to freaking happen.
Yeah. I'd rather shit my hands and clap. No. Sorry, Neph. I'm not fucking debating you for the above reasons.
Neph here.
Right. Yeah, and if they bring up, well, you debated Wayne, well, Nephi, first of all, he called you out, not me, by the way. But Tommy called me out. But the only reason I did debate Wayne was because I liked Wayne, and I think he was an honorable person, and that's why he was able to shift his position because he looked at the evidence and he changed his mind,
Yes.
and that's what an honorable person does. And Nephi is not an honorable person. He will not change his mind by the evidence because he doesn't want to. He's too invested in it at this point.
Zoya, have you been drinking? God damn. I was gonna say.
No, not today.
Not today. And there's some chick in Neff's hangout because I've got it opened in another window. When
Is
he
she
pulled me
cute?
out,
Or does she like sound cute?
she
She's
no,
single.
Yeah, man, you're like in rare form today, man.
you're fucking horny.
I think you're
You're
drunk.
fucking
Yeah,
rebel.
I think you're drunk.
Twink. No, she sounds older. Her name's Marie or something. That's all I can gather from her little box thing.
I
When she
dig a
talks.
cougar.
I can agree to that if they're attractive. But anyway, she's saying that God created it and left it there, and I'm trying to figure out what she's going along with this. But I think she's a creationist, but she's just saying God let it all show towards evolution and shit. What a dishonest cunt if your God does that. But aside from that, we know how fucking bioluminescence works because we fucking do it in medicine, you fucking cunt. And also diagnostics and so forth. So we insert the GFP into a plasmid, and then then the next generation of cells will express that, and they'll fucking fluoresce. And it's the same with nuclear medicine. It does the same shit. So. Damn.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hello?
YouTube. So yeah, we know how this shit works.
Yeah, there was an experiment you were talking about that where they actually did it was using nitrogen 15, which is an isotope of obviously nitrogen, it's a radioactive version instead of using nitrogen 14, and they used that nitrogen to determine how DNA actually reproduces itself, and I believe it was in DNA polymerase, but these things we can use isotopes like that, and these experiments show the process is because of these isotopes.
We can detect cancer with nuclear medicine. I'm choking up between doing nuclear medicine and pharmacology because I would love to work at Roche, but
Well, I don't remember the name of the exact experiment. You probably remember it. You probably studied it.
I've heard of it. I can't remember its name.
Yeah, it's basically a way of saying how to determine the new strand from the old strand produced in DNA replication. And they use, like I said, radioactive nitrogen. So I do remember that, but Nephi doesn't bother to get into these things that why we know what we know. It's all based upon a snowball effect. We start on a basic and we learn. And he was basically saying he made this argument that evolution was passed down from like the Hamabharati or something, and then to the Greeks, Anaximander, which is true. Anaximander did kind of have a small theory about it. I mean, he wasn't anywhere close to what we have now by any means. I mean, he was basically postulated that things evolve. That's what his big postulate was. And then it got, again, was it Augustine the Hippo? Was that his name? And a few other people, Carl Linnaeus and those guys. So, yeah, these concepts have kind of been around. But what he doesn't realize is what Darwin did and what Linnaeus did is they looked at our world and they said, let's be able to explain this. It wasn't that they said, here's this belief system that's been passed down from generation to generation and let's find evidence for it. It was, we want to explain our observations.
Yeah.
So they're looking at it from a reverse position. That's why they get confused.
Yeah, it's basic scientific inquiry. You don't need if I want to figure out something about cancer. I want to use liquid biopsy, and I look at its mechanisms with the free-flowing DNA in the blood or some shit like that from the cancer. Am I going to stipulate God or fucking some supernatural thing that's using these No, fuck off. We can explain these things without anything supernatural. We can explain it with just the biochemistry. So then I'll want to have a little rant about true empiricism, but that's another.
Yeah, I got some people that want to come in. I'm gonna just remove some people that just kind of aren't gonna be engaging that much, and it's nothing personal.
I'll leave.
Okay, and so yeah, if you want to volunteer to
Yeah.
drop, I need probably like 4 spaces. I've got 10 people, and I'm pretty sure that a few of them want to get in. So, and I know I'm gonna leave Mike because Mike is just AFK for a while. Of course, I'm gonna so. All right, so we're making some room here, so we get some people in. I know George wanted in, and George got in. I'm gonna leave Regger because I just like Regger. So.
The 2 Aussies.
He's a pompous English ass, but you gotta like him.
Yeah.
He just I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but he does at least try to make me think sometimes. I'll give him.
I'm sorry if I ever come across as offensive, Steve. I noticed with some of your responses.
Well, you're
that
English.
It's a given. You're wondering whether I'm having a go at you.
You're English. It's just the way English people come across as offensive.
He's Aussie.
Oh,
yeah, mate.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah, I'm one.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Where do you think you came from?
Yeah. Well, I could say that about Americans.
Yeah, good point. Touche.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually had a friend who lives in England, and
we're the only blokes who are allowed to have a go at Americans, mate. No one else is allowed to have a go at them.
Nobody has a go at us. But I had actually told her.
You guys are so easy to have a go at, though, Steve. You got to admit that, mate.
I love Australians, though. But I told my friend, I said, well, we kicked your ass in the war, and she's like, what war? We were allies. I'm like, no, the Revolutionary War. I mean, when we left Britain and became, our sovereign nation. It's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, fuck, don't they teach you shit over there, girl? I was like, yeah, we came from, European colonies. We were British colonists that came over here, and she's like, and you guys were at war with us? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, but if you were a statistician, you got to ask yourself whether you really did win that war, because when things started, what was the percentage that was in favor of opposing England? You had a very small percentage of Americans.
I have no idea. I'm not a historian. I don't give a shit about
that.
We don't like stats around here.
Really?
Yeah, anybody can make stats.
Really, it was the British versus British, because they obviously colonized, but then some of the military broke off and then decided to be American, and hence their independence. But really, it was
absolutely correct. Yeah. I mean, after all, let's face it, gentlemen. Who would want to be associated with anyone that doesn't appreciate a good cup of cha, a good game of cricket, and a great game of rugger?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm down for that. I don't know what any of those things are, but it sounds like fun.
It is.
Boring.
Oh, fucking I've got a Vegemite right now.
Gross.
Yeah, mate.
Anyways, I made room for people, so those people that wanted to get in, now's the opportunity. I'd love to have Jade come in, and Fiona's still awake. I'm pretty sure Jade's listening. But anyways, to continue on to the main topic, Isaiah, are you sober now?
Sober? I don't. I'm not. I don't drink too often. I'm gonna mute.
No, you're fucked.
Say pure.
Too often.
Say Purolithicus Catalonicus for me. If you can pronounce that, then you're sober enough to stay. Well, you're staying anyways. I mean, but to engage. Purolithicus Catalonicus. Come on, say it. Purolithicus Catalonicus. Come on, Isaiah. Say it again, Ryder.
Purolithicus Catalonicus.
Close enough. Purolithicus Catalonicus.
Purolithicus Catalonicus.
Yeah, there you go. But anyways, so Nephi, I guess was asking me to come in or he mentioned me to go to his hangout, and I will drop in every so often, but I just want to get into the tangents that he goes into, because he has a script, and even though I've given him evidence in the past about it, he still goes on and on about it. I mean, he loves to talk about change of morphologies. That mutations have never produced a change of morphology or a change of anatomy or a new natal structure, and it's like, well, yeah, they have. We have papers out there. I mean, actually, Jade actually even showed me one that was very, very good about the navel orange and the placentia orange. Actually, these are types of oranges that were clones. And the actual budding of the orange itself is a small another orange is growing inside the other orange. That's why it's called a navel. And that is a mutation. That's a structural design change. That is something because of a mutation. That is exactly what evolutionary theory predicts. He thinks all of a sudden you're going to have a mutation, you're going to have a fucking third eye growing out of your head, or a second dick out of your foot or something. I mean, he just doesn't understand that these are very progressive things. And they could be a major change. I mean, this is a single mutation that appears to be, you know, a fundamentally structurally different thing, but he does not grasp this. And to him, well, that doesn't matter. Well, that is exactly what he asked for. And he's been explaining this shit before. He still says, show me a fundamentally new novel feature. Well, that is a new novel feature. That is exactly a mutation that caused a morphological difference.
Yeah, I'm going to play a few seconds more of his thing and see what else he said that we can nitpick on or some shit.
Isn't the thumb a mutation originally?
Well, I believe that because we have an opposable thumb, obviously, and apes things are a little bit different in other homologies, but I'm pretty sure that because the way the thumb is like opposed, that was probably a mutation. But I honestly don't know the story on that. That again goes into sober Isaiah's territory. He's much better at homologies than I am, so I don't really discuss homology that much.
I am sober. Yeah, I had one Heineken. That's it.
Well, you are lightweight.
I'm sober.
Yeah, you're a lot fucking weird. You get off at Heineken.
Yeah.
I am sober. I had one Heineken. That's it.
Explain the digits and the fallacies and how they evolved from other structures from earlier type primates.
What? Explain what? I couldn't hear that.
Explain how the opposable thumb in Homo sapiens sapiens came about from earlier primates. Explain the changes in the homologies.
It's not really too different. Our thumb is a little longer, well, compared to our other fingers, but that's about it.
Well, from earlier primates.
Like a chimp, I guess. No, earlier. Going back to plesiodaptiforms.
Yeah, there you go.
No.
Because
I can't remember. I don't remember.
One sec, I'm gonna need you guys to shut up for a second.
What?
I'm gonna need you. Yeah, I need you to shut up for a sec. I'm gonna.
Okay.
Hold on. So, 1 second. He's calling evolution indoctrination. You cunt, Nephilim.
Well, again, I mean, this is rhetoric. I mean, teaching kids facts that they cannot these guys like Nephilim can't refute. He calls that indoctrination. We also call that education.
Yeah, it's education. The Earth is round. We fucking know this, Nephilim. Obviously, there's not a flat earther. I hope not. But you have to teach this shit for fuck's sake, so we don't get more flat earthers.
I do take that claim seriously because if there's anyone who knows indoctrination, it's hardcore religious Christians.
The irony is ever so sweet.
You know, it's funny is, you know, just for shits and giggles yesterday, I tried to get on my computer and at least do a little research. Again, my computer's so damn slow, but I went to Google Scholar and I wanted to read up a little bit more on ATP synthesis, right? And I looked at some biochem books. Holy Jesus, my God. Okay, I mean, this is like, you have to have at least probably up to a master's level degree just to understand this stuff. You know, I mean, I'm gleaning what I can out of it, so I get the basic understanding, because that's all I really want is a basic understanding. Even though I know what ATP synthesis is, but I wanted to learn more about the proton gradient, and I wanted to learn more about the ATP plus inorganic phosphate ATP production. And when you actually look at the complexities of this shit, you need to be an expert just on that one little thing. I mean, this is how much information is out there. And for these guys, it's called that indoctrination because they're teaching evolutionary theory. It's just amazing. It boggles my mind that they can just stoop to that because there's so much research on this stuff, and they ignore all of it. Every single bit of it.
There are no science groups that go around kidnapping kids in the night and dragging them off to a science camp. I guess has anyone else here seen Kidnapped for Christ?
Sadly.
Yeah. Or drag them off to go to college, you know?
Oh, go on.
Hello, Steve.
Yeah, go ahead, George.
Oh, have any of you seen the documentary called Jesus Camp?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
Oh, dude, have we been around the circuit, brother?
All right.
Yeah, that was some hardcore stuff. I did laugh really hard at that chick who was they were praying, and then some chick was getting prayed for, and then this one nutter just goes off at her, screaming. Or I don't know if she was trolling or whatnot, but she was. You guys have all seen the video where she looks like a hippie, and she's screaming right into this chick's face.
Yeah.
Like a retard. Yeah, that was fucking hilarious. I think that was from that.
Yeah, that Kidnapped for Christ. Those kids are brainwashed. That's nothing more than a brainwashing camp.
Yeah. I was gonna say. Shit.
Sorry.
That's so good. I just forgot what I was gonna say.
Here's the thing, though. If there was any science group doing something like that, there'd be so much outrage, and they'd probably be made illegal by various states just because of the trauma you're putting the kids through. But if it's religion, we'll just let that go.
What would the trauma be? Fucking getting an education. Oh no! The brain hurts.
No, I'm talking about the part of the Kidnapped for Christ when they sneak into your house in the middle of the night and drag you off to a camp.
Yeah.
Well, and let's do a compare and contrast here. I mean, when it comes to evolutionary biology, you can go to Google Scholar, and you can go to JSTOR and PMAS and any kind of journal site, and you can literally find hundreds of thousands of papers to read, right? And yet, if you try to find actually any credible information about man walking with dinosaurs, you come up with a big fat goose egg. I mean, literally, there's no papers out there that even remotely even suggest it. It doesn't exist. So, isn't there kind of a disproportionate sense of reality here that they don't want to accept the fact there's overwhelming evidence of evolutionary theory, but they'll accept that man walked with dinosaurs because of some anecdotal, incorrect, misunderstood, disproven information like Paluxy River, or whatever anecdotal crap that they want to use that they believe Hovind about. This is mind-boggling, the disproportionate amount of information out there, and they rather latch on to these small little things that they think prove their case rather than the billions of bits of information out there on actual evolutionary theory.
Well, you don't understand. Piltdown Man was a fraud, therefore evolution is fake.
Yeah, those chestnuts. I'm going to make a little New Year's resolution here. I know it's past New Year's, but I'm generally not going to engage too much comment-wise on videos anymore, like I have been. Obviously, I go back many years in commenting on videos, but I can't refute the basic shit anymore with these guys. I mean, it's just not worth my time to discuss Piltdown Man and Nebraska Man or anything like that. That to me is a novice. That is a baby creationist,
Well, leave it to us.
Yeah, I'll leave it to you guys.
Well, that's a relief.
When they say
it's just saying it's wasting my time. I really get more interesting conversations. That's all.
Exactly.
When they say man walked with dinosaurs, I just agree with them.
Well, Steve, when I say leave it to us, I mean leave it to because I'm relatively new to this community, and I'm relatively new to arguing with creationists. So as my knowledge grows, my people I have arguments with will become more. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, that's completely fair enough. Obviously,
So what you're saying is you're hoping for a nemesis.
Yeah, he'll get one eventually. Yeah, no, I think actually Mike had one. I can't remember their name. I can tell you though, I had to block Brandy, my favorite young Earth creationist, Brandy Nicole. Not because anything that he had was challenging by any means. It's just he was spamming all my shit, and it was getting absurd. he was low-hanging fruit to the point he was the Piltown Man guy. You know, he was the man came from rocks kind of guy. I mean, just not worth my time to refute. It's just I had to eventually block him. So, anyways, hey Neo, how are you? Are you gonna? You unblocked me today. So it's like, what is this like a
Just for interjection, I will recommend everyone here you get ReadCube. It accesses both PubMed and Google Scholar, and it's fucking amazing.
What?
ReadCube. It's what a lot of researchers and students use. It's like an app for your computer and for
READE or
yeah, ReadCube. ReadCube.
Okay.
CUBE. Yeah. I linked in the thing over there.
And how many of those papers talk about man walking with dinosaurs and fire-breathing dragons and
Yeah,
and the
well,
Earth being 6,000 years
I probably
old,
would
and-
see that because I'm firmly a believer.
But of course, they've got the science, of course, you know.
Well, don't forget that peer-reviewed paper by Flintstone and Rubble.
Oh, yeah, I don't think that's been. I think Betty actually refuted that paper though, or Dino. Was it Dino? What's the name of the damn?
Dino.
I will be
Dino.
right back in a sec.
But I mean, it boggles my mind. These people actually can think that they have refuted evolutionary theory and that they're right when they have such crappy evidence that they think supports their position.
What evidence, Steve?
In my opinion, it's zero evidence. I mean, literally zero evidence. I'm not trying to be hyperbole here. There's no evidence to support a young Earth. Zero. And what they do have is this gross conceptual errors of basic science and physics, and they get that from people like Hovind and the rest of them that put out this information, and they don't go validate any of this stuff. I missed my hangout with Hovind today because I got the wrong time because I guess we decided to have it earlier, but he says he's going to have it tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, get this. You get a bloke like me that believes that he's fallen behind the evolutionary curve, and I still believe I'm a fucking caveman. That's not gonna prove anything. I'm not gonna enter into an argument with folks that have evolved a bit further. Sorry,
Yeah,
you go.
Gregor. Hang on, Gregor. Yeah, I can barely hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, but Steve, if man didn't walk with dinosaurs, how did Patrick Thak get that picture of one?
I don't know what you're referring to. Patrick. Oh, Patrick in here. Yeah.
Are you being racist?
Good point. Yeah, I see.
Are you
now.
talking about my picture?
Yeah.
It's an ostrich, man. I find that comment bigoted, man. And I demand an apology right now, or I'll file papers on you, man.
You're in front of the clade of Avis.
You're
Mate,
such
I
an
reckon that's an emu,
ostrich.
Patrick. I reckon that's an emu, not an ostrich, mate.
Yeah, it's an ostrich, man.
I would never ostracize an ostrich.
So hold on. So Neo
I feel
says-
persecuted, man.
It's
I'm
been
gonna go with
live.
emu, though.
I heard somebody's looking for an arch nemesis. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, we gotta get Mike an arch nemesis. Who would be a good one for him? He was a gay. Let me see here. I have a feeling that Spectrum is going to be Enlightened's arch nemesis.
You're gonna find me an arch nemesis, huh?
Yeah, I can find one. Have you been? Well, were you reading the back and forth between Enlightened and that guy Spectrum? That was fun.
Yeah.
How
Oh
about
my
that guy
God.
you gave the blue screen of death to earlier today?
Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
saw
I had
that I was going to have a hangout on that. What happened with that particular guy?
He couldn't get his computer to work. He kept getting the blue screen of death,
That was you, right? Yeah.
and then he accused me of doing that to his computer.
I guess I gotta say, I guess my nemesis obviously would be Tommy. I love Tommy, and I do like Tommy an awful lot. But as far as this topic, he is my anti-Steve. It's just like, dude.
Dude, fucking okay. Dave, hold on a sec. Let's just read what the fuck Neo Cloud. You can't see it, but Neo's posted in the side chat.
Curse words, curse words, curse words.
Yeah, read it up because I don't have the side
That's
chat.
all.
Well,
That's all I
actually,
hear. You guys obviously are.
Neo, I'm gonna read what you said.
I
have
should
the side
respect
chat. Go ahead, read it while I read it.
authorities using the.
Hey, just read what you said, then Neo. Neo, just repeat what you said in the.
Let's see.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
What a dumb cunt. Oh, yeah, no.
well, he just hits and runs. Neo's food on the ground.
Yeah,
But,
I just don't believe evolution. Of course, evolutionists. There's no such thing, you tart.
And by the way, I didn't kick Neo. He left on his own accord, but he tends to block people than he unblocks. I mean, he's just not quite all there. I mean, you just can't take the guy seriously. But I mean, I have nothing against him personally, but he's just flat out scientifically illiterate. But what does he say? I have some. I can't get this. I can't get this to read right.
The thing is, though, Steve, with a lot of these creationists, you know, they just don't seem to be very well read. I mean, they have the one book that they always refer to, and very little besides that. One of the things I've noticed in the postings is they truly don't understand the branches of science. You know, they're always talking about evolution being a belief system, and I keep trying to point out to them that evolution is nothing more than a theory within the well-established scientific field of biology, just like gravitational theory is inside the science of physics, and molecular theory is within chemistry, and they just don't seem to get that at all.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Hey, by the way, welcome, Dennis, my friend.
You know, one thing I might want to bring up, I'm sure you're all aware of this, but it's really become a real problem for me, is over the past month, and now even more so this last week, there's several threads that I've posted to in the last few days, and my comments keep getting deleted. Someone out there is just trying to silence me.
Here's the rule of thumb, George. I'll give you some good advice here, because I know you're really new to the community. Let me mute you first, though, because I'm getting feedback if I don't. If you're on somebody else's thread on a YouTube video, don't bother to write that much. They're not going to read it, or they're going to delete it. If you're on your own thread, that's a different story, because obviously they can't delete your stuff on your own thread if it's your original comment. So I learned that a long time ago. If you're on somebody else's comment and they appear to be a nut job, don't go into detail. Do what I do nowadays. I'm on a lot of videos. I mean, obviously, but one of the videos I get a lot of mail on is one by Dr. Jonathan Sarfati called the DNA chicken and the egg problem, and the couple guys are on it. David77. A couple of you guys know, have run into him, and I can't remember the other guy's name off the top. Oh, Nice Guy. Yeah, remember, you know Nice Guy, George. He's your nemesis, and these guys don't read what I write. So basically, I just say anymore, you know what? Let's go to a hangout and let's discuss it rather than me type a bunch of crap out to you that you're never going to read or understand probably. So they just say, well, why do I got to go to a hangout? And I'm like, well, because I don't have time for this. It's as simple as that. I don't want to waste my time talking to somebody in the chat box that they're not going to bother to even go research anything I tell them. At least if I get it on live air, I can go back and say, hey, look, I've already explained it to you. Go watch the hangout again, right?
Okay, all right. I'm fairly new at all this, so I wasn't aware of this. So you're saying if I start a thread myself, then they can't delete?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they can't delete your comments if it's your thread. They can only delete comments if it's their thread.
I see. Okay, well, that's what keeps happening. Is there's been one thread recently. I've had a post keep reposting it 4 times because it gets deleted within hours.
Yeah, and make sure that you notepad everything. Make sure that you copy. I've read some of your responses for Cosmology, and they're awesome. They're brilliant. So make sure you're saving those.
Oh, I do.
I unfortunately crashed my computer, so I can't go back and get a lot of that stuff yet until I get another computer. But everything I write that's very long and intricate, I put some thought into and some research, I save.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, all my comments for the past month, I always archive everything now.
Yeah, it's a good idea to do that. And I'd like to get you in a hangout with Hunter, because Hunter does like cosmology. He seems to be someone who actually wants to learn the facts. And he doesn't accept evolutionary theory, but he does accept Big Bang cosmology, it seems, to a point. But he really wanted to talk more about it, so I figured you'd be a good person for that. And Red's rhetoric.
Steve, I had
my buddy Reds.
Reminds me of a question I wanted to ask you.
Go for it.
you know, I've been engaging with this one creationist, and he's a Hovenite, and he brought up a shit ton of types of evolution. Is that because I've heard you say something about that before about Kent Hovind? He wants to redefine like cosmic evolution, stellar evolution, biological evolution.
Biological evolution is broken up into micro and macro. It's like 6 types of evolution that he has.
Oh,
Right.
okay. So,
He's playing
is
a
there
word
any
game.
validity to that?
No.
Well, no, not really, because what he's doing is okay. You want to go ahead? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, basically, it's a kind of an equivocation fallacy where he's just using evolution as a word for change and intermixing it with biological evolution.
Exactly. The fallacy of equivocation is that we all know the word evolution in non-scientific terms means a change. Okay, everybody kind of agrees upon that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in a specific field and a specific framework, a word can mean a specific thing, and evolution in biology means something specific. You know, we all know the definition: a change of electric frequency, blah blah blah. So, I mean, he doesn't like that. He doesn't like the fact that in a specific framework, a word is defined specifically. He calls that bait and switch. Well, we call that being more precise. I mean, if you go to a lawyer and they use a specific word, it might mean something different than it does to the common person, right? I mean, just the way it is. It's words in science.
Yeah.
That means
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. He tries to play upon that and just say, well, there's 6 different types of evolution. Well, technically, there's 6 different things that have the word evolution in there. There's, you know, you can have stellar evolution, you can have chemical evolution, you can have molecular evolution, but they're all different things.
Well, I think when he's talking about stellar evolution, one of the things that he's talking about is like hydrogen coming together to form helium in a star.
Yes, I mean, yeah, you can call it stellar evolution. There's nothing wrong with that. Stellar nuclear synthesis is stellar evolution. That's fine.
So is he equivocating all those different types of evolution with biological?
Yes.
No, what he tries to do is say that because there's the evolution, the word itself is used differently, that there's no one set meaning. And people they're confused by it, and it has very different meanings. And it's like, well, yes, to a point, but it's specifically to that. If I say stellar evolution, the word evolution means to change there, but it's how the stars change, right? And how it goes from hydrogen to helium, and how they evolve, right? And when I say evolve, I'm not talking about biological evolution in that way. I'm talking about to evolve, to change.
So he's trying to equivocate. He's trying to equivocate biological evolution with those in the way that how can I put this? He's generalizing all of them instead of what biological evolution actually means. Is that what?
Yeah, it's just a confusing game.
Keep in mind, on stellar evolution, that term basically refers to the life cycle of a star, not evolution in the sense of biological evolution, where you have mutations and branching of species and that going on. I mean, a star, basically, its life cycle depends on its initial mass and composition, and that determines its life cycle, and it's very well documented as far as the progression of the life of a star. You don't have evolution in the sense of biological evolution. It's just referring to the life cycle of a star.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny is, I mean, how many stars are plotted on the Hirschsprung-Russell diagram? I think they use like sample size of about 20,000 stars, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere in that ballpark. Obviously, you know, they use the statistical analysis of random sampling, and they basically, you know, can make these diagrams called the HR diagram that shows the sequence of a star, how it's born to its death, whether it becomes a white dwarf, a brown dwarf, whether it's a red giant, whether it can be explode to a black hole. It shows where, based upon its mass and luminosity and all this other stuff, where it's going to be on this chart. And we've never seen a star being born, live its entire life cycle, and yet die. We've never experienced this. So to these idiots, that's not science. Well, you didn't observe it, therefore it's not science. That's the absurdity that they have to go by, if that's what their definition of observation is. But as far as evolution, I was talking to Mac the other day, And we were talking about biology. I mean, him and Vecco were talking about biology and evolution, and they got me involved. And you know, he said something, you know, to about macroevolution. And so I started telling him the definition of evolution as he asked for. And he's like, well, you first have to determine what kind of evolution you're talking about. Are you talking about molecular, biology, or stellar? And I'm like, dude, we've been talking about biology for the last fucking half hour. What do you think I'm talking about? You know, I mean, this is the absurdity that they go through because they've been so confused that all of a sudden you have to like explain to them. If you're already talking about a certain framework, we kind of understand that when we talk about the word evolution and we're discussing biology, we mean evolutionary biology. Do we have to like sit there and say, oh, by the way, I'm talking about evolution in context of biology now as a change of electric frequency? I mean, this is why I hate discussing things with certain people.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't seem to understand the context within which you're speaking, but they love to take things out of context to support their own point of view.
Yeah, I try to be pretty careful in the things I say so I don't get that out of context thing. It does happen, but I know the game, so I know when they're going to say, well, Steve said this. Well, yeah, I did, but you didn't. You kind of neglected the entire second part of that sentence, you know?
Exactly. There was a recent posting where exactly that same thing happened. They took something out of context from this microbiologist in University of Houston, I think it was. His name's Dan Girth or something like that. And basically took a quote and used it to support their case, but when you went back to the actual documents, he was not in support of the position of the creationists at all. In fact, he was a very avid, outspoken person against the whole fundamental basis on which they were looking at some of these studies to support their case.
Yeah, they do selective quoting. My friend Rational Mind, anybody who wants to go subscribe to him, I highly recommend it. Rational Mind did some videos, and he did a video once. A guy named Tompkins, he actually is a doctor geneticist that works for ICR, and he's a younger creationist. And he cited a paper that kind of supported his position about how genes came about, or a certain line of genes came about 5,000 years ago. And of course, to him, it's like, oh, well, this is evidence of younger creationism, and it doesn't take into account any kind of old Earth, or it doesn't take into account uniformitarianism. It's basically just looking at the data. Well, somebody had sent to Rational the actual paper, and he had looked at the paper, and you look at the paper in the video, and this very second line is that it says based upon a 50,000 year lineage or something along those lines. And so it was based upon 50,000 years prior to that was in the paper that they neglected to mention. And so here's one. Let me take a poll of everybody in here, and even Jungle can give me his vote. Can you guys name any other group besides creationists that have such a plethora of quote mining for their arguments? Go.
Anti-GMOers.
Nowhere near prevalent. I'll accept it, but nowhere near as prevalent.
Politicians, not a measure of it up.
Politicians, okay, they do quote mine. Do they have the depth of quote mining reservoir that the creationists have, though?
They don't need the depth, because the bigger the public, the dumber they are.
Yeah, but I think with politics, and I'm not going to get into politics so much, but I think with politics, when you quote mine, I think they get challenged a lot easier. I think that people actually look into them and go, hey, I remember those days, and I don't remember such and such actually saying something exactly like that, you know. But I mean that's a valid thing, but I still don't think it's a privilege of younger creationists, their ability to do quote mine.
Al Gore never said he invented the internet. Jimmy Carter never said Great Malaise. There's a whole bunch of things in politics where if you look, it never actually happened.
Known knowns, unknown knowns. What was that bloody idiot from Halliburton?
Oh, hang on. I can't hear Rigger for some reason.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, Al Gore didn't, just come out and say it, but he sure the hell implied it. I remember that. And what's the other one that was kind of taken out of context? The unseen minority? Was that what it was? Remember that quote about? They turned into some kind of racial thing about the unseen minority. I'm trying to remember who said that. It was oh my goodness. That's why I gave politics, man. I forget these people's names.
In what context was it said?
It was in regards to, I think, like the silent majority, like the white upper middle class. And it's an American thing. I can't remember the name of the senator who said it. I'm not looking at that. Not my thing. But anyways, still, the question was, besides young Earth creationists, who quote mines so much? I mean, look at these people. They'll come to my page and they'll sit there and give me 15 quotes. Oh, look, well, such and such said this. Stephen Jay Gould said this. Darwin said this. And Dawkins said this. And then when you go look at any of them, which I've done before, that's why I don't bother with quote mining anymore, they only quote part of it, or they totally misrepresent the argument. Do they really think that Stephen Jay Gould has any evidence against evolution, or did not believe in evolution, or didn't think there was transitional fossils? I mean,
remember the quote mining that was responsible for ClimateGate?
You mean when they were doing those
emails that were?
Yeah, the emails. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Actually, I would have to champion that the anti-GMO movement's probably worse because Kevin Folter was doing genetic research with using UV light and to alter the genome, right? And he was advocating GMOs and so forth, and so these cunts put forward a Freedom of Information Request Act into his emails. When Santo was paying him to do an education trip, to do an outreach program, and so the money literally went to the travels, expenses, all that kind of shit. These anti-science, anti-GMO people literally took these emails that showed that and went, oh look, Monsanto's paying him for his research to skew the data. It's like, well, read the fucking emails provided. You see it was for an education outreach program. So I'd have to say they're probably worse, because there you got the actual emails provided, and they cherry-picked it to all fuck. So I'd have to say they're actually worse.
Hey, Hunter Bailey wants to come in. I just got a message from him. I was brave enough to try to check without dropping. Can we make room for him from somebody? Anybody that could move out for Hunter to get in? I'd really like to engage with him.
Jungle, hold on. Jungle said, see, I listen to biologists that can't account for written directives that are not there. Does anybody understand what that means?
No, he mentioned this to me last night. I literally said, what do you fucking mean? What is this written directive? What is this directed genetic?
Okay, first of all, I've explained it to Jungle. I'm not going to respond to him when he talks gibberish, just like a baby talk. Prove me wrong. It's just not going to happen. And this undirected, directed, sequential sequence crap, I'm done with it. It's nonsensical. He cannot support it. He cannot show me in any paper what the shit means. And if he cannot define his own position and define his own comments and define his own arguments, they could be dismissed summarily.
You think all animals have the same chromosome?
Shut up, you shut up.
Same number of chromosomes.
You're ignorant.
Get rid of him.
So let's get Hunter in here. Hunter, there's room for you now. Hunter Bailey, come on in. We're going to discuss. We're going to shift a little bit to cosmology and with George here, because George is a background in engineering. So let's see if we can get him in here real quick.
I have a cosmological question.
Hey, shut the fuck up.
Jungle, you can't
let Jungle speak. I want to hear him say something.
Jungle, we don't mind engaging with you. I love you, man. I really do. But if you say stupid shit, I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to really bother with it. Okay? It's just I cannot deal with you making this shit up and pulling out of your ass and saying, "Oh, it's sequentially sequenced. It's a directed process."
No, it's not sequenced specific.
Your word solid. You like to lie.
It's not sequenced.
Just shouting.
Well,
No, I wanted to do this because I wanted to get into the humans. I wanted to get into humans and chimps with jungles, but who was Bailey with the Jesus and the
Isaiah,
Jesus
I
and the
let
Big Bang guy? Who was
Hunter's in here. Okay, so
One
we're
at a
gonna
time, one at a time.
yeah, we're gonna move on to Hunter here, guys. So, Hunter, just to give you a brief introduction to Hunter. I met Hunter a couple of days ago in a Christian hangout that was trying to disprove evolution, and I kind of took a liking to him because he wanted to learn stuff. The other guy he was with was dumber than dog shit. I mean, literally to the point I wanted to pluck my eyes out with
Yep.
tweezers. And I couldn't go on. I mean, I was just like, this is absurd. But this guy actually seemed to have a little bit. This guy seemed to have a little bit of a head on his shoulder, and so I kind of wanted to address his more claims when it came to evolution or biology or cosmology. So go ahead, Hunter, take your best shot. I'm going to mute everybody, and you have the floor, and give us what you think and what you would like George, myself, or anybody else on the panel to kind of explain to you if you can.
Okay, cool. Well, as y'all can see on my little avatar thing, it's Jesus talking, and through him all things were created. Because I'm a Christian, so don't hate on me because I still have a lot of respect for you guys. Y'all guys are smart. So, but I am I used to be an atheist, but I don't take that as a like type of like assault towards you guys or whatever. I just say that because I really used to be an atheist and I became a Christian. But I'm still in a learning process. I'm only 22. And I really like to learn. I'm huge when it comes to the science field. I love science. I love really cosmology. And I'm really not, I really honestly don't have a clue when it comes to evolution. Sure, I have a few questions and everything and some certain doubts. But I mean, I ran into you guys and I figured, Steve really knows what the crap he's talking about. So, yeah, so that's why I'm here and everything. And I just wanted to take it on from there.
Okay.
Anybody?
George looked like he's AFK, and I guess Jungle got blocked. But anyways, okay. So I guess you want to go to the more cosmology route, which again not an area I've looked into for a very long time. I took astronomy in college, but I'm not that versed in it. But I could hold my own, I guess. But so you do accept that the universe is 13.8 billion years old, right? In that ballpark.
Yeah, I am leading that way. Yes.
Okay, and your question is more of a theological or philosophical one of what created the universe more than does young Earth creationism exist? Because if you accept that the universe is 13.8 billion years and that the universe itself is what 90 billion light years across. I mean,
it's actually what I read is actually 93 billion to the billionth length in light years of diameter.
That's pretty high up there. So, because we're not talking about our little, we're not talking about our observable universe. We can only look back so far. We can only go back, to the time of the Big Bang, obviously 13.8 billion years ago. That is our red horizon. We can never go past that. We can see light further only because of gravitational lensing. But so you don't accept young Earth creationism, then, correct?
I'm still really agnostic about it because I'm not 100% sure. Like I'm still just trying to get. I don't like just going off of what people say. I like doing my own research and I like listening to both sides of the arguments. And I've heard y'all's side of the arguments plenty of times, but I've never really heard the young creationist side. So before I just go ahead and say that I'm a young creationist or old Earth creationist, I like to look at both sides of the coin just so I can weigh it out. Because I mean, all honesty, like for me. I don't want to be wrong about this stuff. It's very important to me, and I take it very seriously, which is why I'm in the field that I'm in. So I'm still just kind of just balancing, weighing out the alternatives and everything. If that's
a fair position. Yeah, that's a very fair position to take. But I think you kind of answered your own question. I mean, if you're already leaning toward the fact the universe is 13.8 billion years old, then by de facto, then obviously younger creation cannot be true. I mean, it's one or the other. I mean. You cannot have a young universe if it's 13.8 billion years old. So,
right.
But,
and
I have a cosmological problem.
Okay.
Can't wait.
The fact that there's no absolute measure of time or distance in the universe.
There are natural.
I knew it was going to be nonsensical.
Yeah, that's
So
what
you
isn't
can't
nonsense.
put an age on the universe, and you can't put a time on the
Well,
universe because it's all
I'm
relative.
going to answer this question
Oh,
just because I want Hunter to learn
hold
from it.
on.
Yeah.
Of course you
Go
can.
ahead, go ahead. Go.
Well,
I
I
want to hear
wouldn't
what
mind him.
I want to hear what he has.
I wouldn't mind
Oh,
him justifying that.
it
I want
doesn't
to hear what
matter.
George has to say. I want to hear what George has to say.
Yeah, I want to hear what George has to say too. I just want to explain real quick. There are something called natural units, Jungle. A Planck length is a natural unit of length, and a
It's
second is a
relative.
natural unit of time. These things, there are natural
Relative.
things out there that are based upon, excuse me, Planck's time. There's certain things that are natural units. So these things do exist. I mean, we can measure things by using natural units if we really had to. I mean, obviously you can't measure less than a Planck length because then you have uncertainty. But we can measure things. We do have the ability to measure time and come up with what is before, what is after. It's actually based upon entropy if you want to get technical. When you have a chemical reaction or reaction, as entropy increases, that's the error of time. So that's what we go by. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah,
Feel free
but
to
you
answer.
believe in relativity, right?
Well, no, I accept relativity as a model that explains phenomenon. General relativity
So,
explains gravity, and
but
special
it's
relativity
observed.
explains
Relativity
momentum
is
attraction.
observed. It's an observed phenomenon.
All phenomena are observed by definition.
Relativity.
Go
Well,
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, George. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go
Well,
ahead,
what I was
George.
going to say is that this comment about time, it doesn't matter if there's that there isn't an absolute time scale. Time in terms of age, we're thinking in terms of a differential measurement, a differential time from, you can measure the amount of time that is lapsed from present to sometime in the past. That's a differential measurement. If there's an absolute time frame, then our time today is, say, T0. The beginning of the universe was at T1. So we talk about 13.5 billion years as being T0 minus T1. It's a differential time. You don't have, it doesn't matter if there's an absolute time because the frame of time drops out when you do a differential measurement, just like for weight. There's no absolute weight. The weight.
But you believe in expansion, right? You believe in expansion.
What he's saying is when you do the qualitative analysis, the unit itself of time drops out of the equation. It becomes a non-factor.
Okay, but you believe in expansion,
I
right?
get a chance to reply to
Well, yes, but
of the universe.
Yes.
So space is expanding, right?
So can I reply?
That's correct.
You can't have space expand. You can't have space expand without time expanding. So time is expanded fabrication. And you say you believe space expanded instantly. That means time expanded instantly, and you can't use expanded time as a valid measure of time.
Where do you
Time
get that from?
is not tied to the fabric of space.
Yeah, it is.
So you have to explain
According
to
to
him
relativity
general
is.
theory of relativity and shit. Good luck.
They're linked.
Go ahead, George.
Relativity, the whole thing about time dilation and length contraction, that all falls out from the fact that if you accept that the speed of light is constant in all inertial reference frames. Well, what is an inertial reference frame? An inertial reference frame is one that is not accelerating. It's a reference frame that is advancing or receding at a constant velocity where you have no acceleration. And from that, the mathematics, it falls out that you'll end up, if you have two observers moving relative to one another, hence relativity, that you will, each observer will experience the other one having time dilation. Hence,
I'm not talking about movement. I'm talking about general relativity.
Well, you have movement when you have movement through a gravitational field. That is what GR actually involves. I mean, that's what it is. If you have a
general
movement,
relativity
from gravity, that's the whole point. If you're in an elevator with a
a lot
constant
of
acceleration.
people confuse space with the fabric of space. The fabric of space itself is expanding. Now, you could have, say, you could be observing two galaxies that are outside of the influence of one another's gravity and see them receding apart from one another. But that is not inertial motion. They are not moving in terms of what we talk about inertial motion. It's the fabric of space itself drawing them apart.
So
Now, if
you
they're
believe
under
you believe in
one,
black holes, right? The black
pardon?
holes.
Well,
You believe in a
Jungle,
black
hang on,
hole,
Jungle,
right?
I'm not going to let you guess, Gallop. He's answering your question, and he's answering it very fully. And you need to stay on topic. If you ask a question, stick with the question you've asked. Okay, he's explaining to you about space expanding. In other words, if you have two bodies of mass and they're just in space, and they have no momentum of itself, but they're just being moved away by the fabric of space-time moving them. That's what he's referring to.
I understand.
We
I
call it
understand what
Hubble's
he's saying.
constant.
I understand what he's saying.
And do you agree with that then?
Well, you can't use expanded time as a valid measure of historical time because expanded
Now you're just making
at
shit
a
up.
very
You're
rapid
not answering
pace.
his question.
Like I said, should have
You're
looked
just
Well,
making
this,
shit
it
up
was
now.
my question.
Well, you're not addressing his answer though.
chicken.
No, but I understand what he's saying. I agree with what he was saying.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's just
Okay,
like,
great. Jungle agrees. Let's move on
yeah,
back to
it's
Hunter
like
now.
What?
Let's
Well,
go
what
back
is
to
Hunter's?
Hunter.
Could I address Hunter's point before?
Sure.
So another
So
question
not
would be
if
about
Jungle
the distance
talks
between
to
here and a black hole.
me.
How
The
far is it?
science over the Big Bang has pretty much been established in series status. So for
Yeah,
an
I agree with
individual,
The
Yeah,
nearest
Hunter accepts the Big Bang, I think. So let's kind of tailor this to Hunter rather than Jungle gibberish. So.
All right,
Yeah.
go ahead.
well,
Hunter, so you
the nearest
Go ahead.
black hole that we know of is at the center of our universe, and we're about 20,000 light years from that.
Even
Wait.
even with the dilation of distance?
That has nothing to do with it.
Why not?
Wait, hold on. Did you say?
What do you mean by dilation of distance?
Well, distance gets smaller and smaller relative to us.
No.
Yes.
Are you insinuating we're traveling at relative velocities away from the black hole, or relative to the black
No,
hole?
the closer you get to the large mass of the black hole, the smaller distance is going to be.
No.
Wow.
Wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Dilation, length contraction only takes place when you have relative motion between two observers in two inertial reference frames.
So what causes gravitational lensing?
Well, I would have to say, George, I'd have to kind of, they say gravity can do it well, but you still have two observers. But one observer can see somebody in a higher gravitational field, and would they not be considered contracted because gravity is higher between the two observers?
I'm sorry, your volume your volume isn't very high. I have a hard time hearing you, Steve. What about the gravity?
I'm going to mute you so I can talk louder. Real quick, if you have two observers and they're in a different gravitational field potential, one of them's looking at somebody, like going into a black hole or something like, or in a black hole, there's going to be a gravitational difference between them. Wouldn't they still have a gravitational dilation? They're still going to appear to be distorted, even though they're not have relative to this movement between them. You can still have Lorentz contraction, and it could be based upon a gravitational difference rather than just a relativistic velocity difference, correct?
No, I don't believe so. You can't mix special relativity with general relativity. They're two separate. Once you get into gravitational,
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Let me correct that. I should say you have a time dilation, not a spatial dilation.
Yes.
So, but you can't have a time dilation without spatial dilation.
Well,
no, that's not true.
Because of the frame of reference. It's a frame of reference of a certain distance in a certain time.
Don't try to understand it, George. You're just gonna start crying.
The thing about general relativity, you can solve a lot of paradoxes or misunderstandings in general relativity by understanding that whether you're in a gravitational field or in an accelerated reference frame without any gravitation, you can't tell the difference. Okay?
But in gravitational lensing, that happens because it's going through more frames of reference and it's actually traveling a farther distance.
No. All gravitational lensing is bending of light waves as it passes through a gravitational field.
Because it's passing through a larger distance, closer to the gravitational source.
No.
Jungle, this is what we call jungle gibberish, and we've explained this to you. There's no such thing as passing through frames of reference.
Yes, there is a frame of reference. It's what causes the gravitational lensing. It actually travels a farther distance, just like light slows down. Glass slows down light and causes a magnification. It's the same thing. It's traveling through a larger distance. It's actually slowing down. It's slowing down the speed of light. So that proves space contraction.
First of all, you've confused so many different things here. And George,
I just proved space contraction to you. That's gravitational lensing. That's space contraction.
At its finest, George. This is Jungle literally just not understanding basic concepts. And you can have 50,000 physicists tell him he's wrong. He's not going to understand it. He doesn't have the capability to understand. And he literally thinks that light's passing through what he calls frames of references. He doesn't understand what that even means because it makes no sense. Like you said, gravitational lensing is very simple.
It's just like out there. It's just nonsense. It's what kind of are you familiar with Dr. Peter Lawrence Peter? Peter Principle. He had this thing called Peter Parlay, is where you make up a list of verbs, nouns, and adjectives, and you just randomly pick, and you come up with some real impressive sounding terms that mean nothing.
Yeah, the Deepak Chopra thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's two types of Peter Parlay. There's one that's easy to, let's see, how does that go? One is easy to misunderstand, the other is, oh gosh.
I'm not hearing any other alternative, though. I'm not hearing any other alternative.
This is what Jungle does. We've explained to him there's no such thing as traveling through frames of reference. It's a nonsensical thing. But anyways, Hunter, can you see what younger creationist does to people, though? You can see how it just destroys their ability to understand proper science.
Well, I'm the one talking science.
Well, let's get back to bending the light waves as it passes through a piece of glass. That occurs because of the boundary conditions of an electromagnetic wave as it passes from one medium into another that have different permittivities, electrical permeabilities.
Right.
All right. Now, the light is bending.
Because it's slowing down the light.
Yes, but the thickness of the glass hasn't changed. The distance hasn't changed.
No, but the thickness, because it travels slower through glass, and the thickness of the glass is what makes it travel slower in the center than on the side.
No, that's not true.
That's exactly what causes the magnification. That is what causes the magnification, is the speed that light travels through the lens.
No, magnification is because of the geometric dimensions, the geometric form of the glass.
Well, yeah, it changes the geometric dimensions too, but it's because it travels slower.
No, not the
But answer me this question. Glass slows down the speed of light, right?
That is correct, because the permittivity of glass is higher than 1. The permittivity of free space is 1. That's reference.
What's bending the light, is that it's being slowed down more in the center. That's what's bending the light.
Jungle, can you explain to us what electrical permittivity or magnetic permissivity or permissive is electrical permittivity and magnetic permittivity or permissivity?
It's the speed that light can travel through glass compared to the speed it travels through space.
It's the ability for electric field to travel through a free space, or a magnetic field. So it's permittivity for electric and permissibility for magnetic. Is that right, George?
And if it was traveling through a diamond, it would slow it down even more. Through a diamond.
I just say electric and magnetic constant.
Permittivity is for electric fields. Permeability, EA. Permeability is for magnetic fields. But for most materials, unless it's ferromagnetic, the permeability is pretty much constant for most materials and is equal to 1, the relative permeability. The absolute number is actually 4 pi times 10 to the minus 7th, but that's for free space. Permeability, the magnetic permeability for most materials, unless it's ferromagnetic, is the same as free space. The permittivity, the electric permittivity that changes amongst most materials that we find.
And Jungle, that's just saying that how easy it is for an electric or magnetic field to travel, basically.
Like diamonds, a diamond will slow it down even more than
light can be slowed down, but he's talking about the refraction index that happens at the boundary of the surfaces. It's actually where the boundary difference change, where you have different density of the
at the boundary where things change, because there are certain boundary conditions in Maxwell's equations. There's 2 boundary conditions that result in the bending of lights. That is, one is that the D field, which is the electric intensity or electric field density, the D field, has to be the normal component of the D field. The electric field density, the normal component is continuous as you go across the boundary, and the tangential component of the E field, the electric intensity, is continuous across the boundary. And when you impose those 2 boundary conditions, you find that if the permittivity on one side of the boundary is different than on the other side of the boundary, that you end up with refraction. That is, a bending of the vector field that's incident on the boundary gets bent inside the material. But that angle of bending is constant throughout the material. It doesn't change as you go. There's nothing special about the very edge of the boundary as compared to the center of the boundary. It doesn't continuously change as it's passing through that medium. As long as it's a homogeneous material and the permittivity is constant throughout that material, it doesn't, the speed with which the light is propagating through that material doesn't change.
If it was the same thickness, you're saying if it was the same thickness, it wouldn't change.
If it's homogeneous.
It wouldn't slow down the light.
No, it slows down. What I'm saying is that the speed of light within the material is constant. Just like
he's saying the velocity changes at the boundary, Jungle. That's where the change occurs. Once it's in the medium, it doesn't change its velocity anymore.
Exactly. That's very well.
That's no problem. That's no problem. But the gravitational, I mean the large mass of a black hole is going to bend the light the same way as if it was passing through a lens. And it's called gravitational lensing.
Yeah.
And it actually travels a farther distance closer to the mass than farther than the mass. And that's what causes the lensing effect.
Yeah, that's close enough. No. Well, I would say that's kind of. Speaking in jungle speak, he's actually kind of right. What he's basically saying in jungle speak is that lights will be able to reach us from further distances. We can see further away because of the gravitational bending, which is true. So, I mean, I think that's what Jungle's trying to say, if I can interpret his language.
No, I don't think that's what he's trying to say.
Is that not what he's saying?
It's a magnification. The effect is the lensing. It's a magnifying effect, but what causes the lensing is that it's traveling a farther distance closer to the mass of a black hole.
It's not magnifying. It's not magnifying in the sense of a magnifying glass that you use for magnifying light. It's not. It's lensing, but don't take that to infer that it's
an
magnifying.
analogy.
Well, if it's lensing, then the light is being slowed down.
It's being bent. It's not being slowed down necessarily.
Well, yeah, but in order to be bent, it has to be slowed down.
Not really.
Yeah.
Why would it have to be slowed? The speed of light
because that's what causes the lensing effect.
Okay, now again, general relativity, think about the equivalence of a gravitational field and an accelerated field. If I'm to take what you're saying is correct, then you could take a flashlight and be on an elevator that's falling and accelerating. Say there's no gravitational field around it, and you shine the light from one side of the elevator and look at the spot on the wall. It's not going to be directly across. It's going to be somewhat higher than where it originated. Now,
actually be lower, wouldn't it? It'd be lower.
You could say that there's light there, but it has nothing to do with what you just described.
George, if you have a vector that's going up and you have an elevator and you shine a light, the light wave is actually going to bend downward. It's going to have a downward vector. So the light's actually going to be shown lower than it would, not higher.
I'm talking about a falling elevator.
Oh, falling. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm thinking going up. Yeah. Okay. If you're going down vector, then it's going to be the opposite, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're in a free fall, then yeah, it's going to be obviously higher than going straight across. And I'm thinking of an elevator going up, then it's obviously going to be going downwards.
Yeah. So the light.
The light's going to look like it's going down.
Within that elevator is traveling at a constant speed at the same as what it is outside the elevator. There's no slowing down of the light.
Right. And Joe, what you got to remember is the person inside the elevator, all he's going to see is that light hitting, going straight and then curving. He's not going to know whether it's due to acceleration or to a gravitational field. There's no way of knowing. That's the whole point. He's going to see it just go and curve. Let's say it's a free fall. He's going to see it go, and basically the dot's going to be higher than what it should be straight across. But he has absolutely no way to determine is if he's in a free fall state or if there's a gravitational field causing that light to bend. That's one of the tenets of relativity. You cannot tell the difference.
Yeah, that's the whole basis of general relativity.
Yeah.
But if you're outside looking in, it's gotta. I mean, it's going to take longer for the light to reach when it passes close to the large mass than when it's farther away, and that's what causes the lens effect.
No. Anyway.
So what are you saying? You're saying that? What are you saying? You're saying gravity slows down the light? What slows down the light? What causes the lens effect?
Hang on. This is getting absurd. We've already explained it to you, and Hunter doesn't have much time.
What's causing the lens effect?
Great. Hunter, let's go ahead and finish with you because we could talk to Jungle with his nonsense anytime.
Yeah, okay.
So Hunter, go ahead.
Well, actually, I had one question.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say, George, you need to start drinking a lot if you engage with these people. You're going to lose your mind.
Yeah, I was just about ready to jump up and get my vodka.
Yeah, I hear you, brother. Go ahead, Hunter.
Oh, well, actually, I had a question that, y'all were just, one thing that stuck to me, what was just said. George, is that your name?
Yes.
Okay. You said that there was a black hole actually in the center of the universe. Did you mean the galaxy, or did you actually meant the universe?
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant the Milky Way galaxy.
Okay, because I agreed with that completely, because we know that stars are really close, and they're traveling at a very high speed, I guess that's the word I can use. So, I mean, I was just confused when you said universe. I was like, we found the center of the universe. So, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I mean, there is no center to the universe. There is no center that can be identified.
Right.
When I said we're 20,000 light years away from the center. It's the center of the Milky Way.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because that would have shocked me to death.
Sorry,
No,
it was
you're
a
good.
slip of the tongue.
So,
geocentrists they're actually right in one way. If you want to set the equations and what's called Galilean transformations to the center of the universe and say the Earth is the center, you could actually mathematically make it work. That's
Really?
what's funny. Yeah, but you can make these. You can make it work for any point. It's arbitrary. I can make Jupiter the center of the universe mathematically if you wanted to.
I didn't know that. Well, we do all agree though that the universe had a Big Bang and that it started from a single point, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the theory.
Looks like that, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And right now it's the best theory out there because that's why so many scientists believe it. Right.
Yeah, it's part of the standard model.
Okay. Yeah. I like to use a lot of philosophy when it comes to these kind of things because I think philosophy and science complement each other. If that's okay with y'all, I just wanted to be sure.
Go ahead.
I don't subscribe to that, but go ahead.
Okay. One of the arguments I like, and Steve, you actually know about this because I use it a lot, but it's the Kalam cosmological argument, and pretty much it just has three premises. One, whatever begins to exist has a cause. Two, the universe began to exist, therefore, three, the universe has a cause. Now, I like to see. I mean, I'm a Christian, so I believe that there is a creator of the universe, and since the universe began, I'm sorry.
William Lane Craig's argument.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his and everything, and actually look into his work. So I mean, if y'all ever like want to see what I learned, just go to his stuff because that's like I mean,
but I mean that's not William Lane's I mean that's not William Lane Craig's argument. That is actually the Kalam. What William Lane does is he adds additional things. The Kalam itself is logically structured, but when what Craig does, he adds like 6 different more premises to that to come up with the conclusion he wants to find. But anyway, the Kalam itself, he adds like 6 different more premises and lines to that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, I only just use those three, and I'll work off of those. But I'll go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I mean, I'll run the Kalam with you. I did it the other night. If George wants to, MMA. I mean, we all know the Kalam cosmological argument. I mean, we've been around. I've never had anybody really demonstrate why it's so great. What's so fantastic about it? It doesn't really tell me anything.
Well, it goes pretty much like, pretty much the universe began to exist, so therefore the universe has a cause. We all believe in the Big Bang, so I don't have to go through that the universe began to exist. The definition of...
Well, hang on. The Big Bang was not the cause, though. The Big Bang was not the beginning of the universe. The Big Bang was the inflation period.
I totally differ from this. I'm one that doesn't... I have no reason to believe that there had to have been a cause. I mean, it was an abnormality, a singularity that occurred. Now, who's not to say that there were several Big Bangs? Many of them didn't work out because the physical constants out there weren't of the proper proportion to result in life as we know it. This could have been several Big Bangs and collapses. Maybe one Big Bang occurred and there was too much mass, so it all collapsed back on itself to start over again. We don't know this. I mean, we don't know what started the Big Bang. All we know at this point is everything from observation. If you look at, what Hubble did with redshift, and if you extrapolate back, it looks like it all started from a singularity, and the fabric of space expanded and carried matter with it, and the matter coalesced to form, the stars, the planets, and so on. But we don't know yet anything about time zero or time zero minus. We have no clue. You could say it was God, but then again, it just pushes the argument one further back as far as I'm concerned. I mean, where did God come from? I mean, sure, maybe God created everything, but I can't accept that there's this God that existed forever and he just decided to create the universe. I mean, it just moves the argument one step backward.
What Craig does is he just makes the argument of prime mover to get around the whole infinite regress thing. That's all it really is.
Yeah, and actually, that's what I was going to say is like Aristotle used a law called that you cannot have an infinite regress, which means you have to come from what is called the unmoved mover, and pretty much you have this
Aristotle was
cause.
wrong.
I'm sorry.
Aristotle was wrong about a lot of
Really?
things.
How so?
We can go into the fact of how Galileo corrected Aristotle on physics. We can correct Aristotle on the fact that we do not have to have a cause without an effect without a cause. We can have a effect that exists that doesn't have a cause to it.
Yeah, we can easily argue that Aristotle set science back 2,000 years.
Yeah, Aristotle made some blunders. Even Galileo corrected him on many things. So I don't follow into Aristotelian logic. Most of the time, I have a friend who's a PhD in philosophy, and he even told me when he took Aristotelian logic, halfway through the course, like, okay, now forget everything you ever learned about this, and we're going to go on to model logic and propositional logic, and forget everything you learned about Aristotelian logic because you're never going to use it. So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
anyway,
I had to look more into the. You said Galileo? Is that what you said, Steve?
yeah, it was Galileo that basically was explaining because Aristotle had this weird version of gravity, and Galileo had purported that two masses, if they drop simultaneously, would be equal of how fast they fall, and that was not. That was not.
Yeah, Galileo was the first to demonstrate that the rate at which objects fell towards the Earth was the same regardless of its size or mass. And Aristotle, a lot of times, the Greeks were famous for arguing intellectually and not performing experiments to verify whether they're correct or not.
It was all a mind thing with him. And Ocean, I got your props to Ocean. Ocean was really, really good at demonstrating how Aristotle made some major blunders to Josh in a hangout. So if he's listening, I'm giving him full props for that. But anyways, go back to the Kalam. Why don't you state your first premise, and then maybe George and myself or anybody else who's packing peanut right now would like to accept or reject the premise as it is, because I don't think, again, the Kalam really tells us anything. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, just the first premise is whatever begins to exist has a cause. I think that's kind of just logical because if you think of anything that begins to exist, other than first is I talked to one of my friends. His name is God, and he's an atheist. And I asked him, he didn't believe this. He just went circles and circles around me, and eventually it got really annoying to where it's like, we're not getting anywhere with this. I'm just going to end it now. And then afterwards, he said some rude remarks, but I was like, okay, you said all you want, but we're not getting nowhere. And I asked him, if this was not so, can you give me an example of something that came into existence that was not created?
Yes.
So, and what? I'm sorry.
I can. Go ahead.
Yes, Steve and George can with it's overused, but the virtual particle thing. I could go into detail with that because when you get to that quantum level, shit gets quacky, and so we don't. So it throws whatever we have pretty much out the door. When you get to that quantum level, I mean, shit can become contradictory, and it's just quantum, so everything goes to shit. So,
yeah.
In quantum,
Well,
you can have an effect without a cause. That's a given.
The universe could, through quantum physics, have a start without a cause, in a sense.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to the vertical particles, though, what they're in though is what's called a quantum vacuum. And I've actually talked to a couple of physicians about this, and what I've gotten from them is that I'm sorry.
Physicist, not physician.
I'm sorry.
I want to use the virtual particle as an example. I would use more a weak nuclear decay. Virtual particle do have a cause. If you look at the Feynman diagrams, that you can actually break down, and you can understand the virtual particle creation based upon the way Feynman drew them from a time element, one going forward, one backwards in time. There actually is a point where they have a creation event and then a destruction event. I wouldn't use that as an example, but go ahead.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, and I was actually going to say, like, when it comes to the virtual particles, they're in what's called a quantum vacuum, and not only that, but they're not popping into existence out of nothing, which is how people word it. But what they're actually doing is they're just going in and out of measurement, which what it seems is that they're being created or without a cause. But what's actually happened is that they're actually in a sea of energy and what's I guess I would say gas, but I don't think that's the correct word. So when it comes to
It's called a quantum soup or a quantum
yes,
foam.
that's what
I'm
it is.
sorry.
Yes. So
Quantum
yeah,
foam.
so
Yeah.
I've already looked into that, and so it just shows that they're just moving in and out of measurement. Really, it's not that they're coming out of being created without a cause. But you were talking about a weak radiation something.
Right. Weak nuclear interactions. When you have a decay of an isotope, okay, let's say you have a simple beta decay. That is when an isotope changes its atomic number by producing what's called a beta particle, which is an electron, and what's called an antineutrino. When this occurs, it's completely random. It is completely stochastic. There is no way to determine when this event can occur. Okay, this is basic quantum that we do not know. It goes into Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. It goes into the whole Schrödinger cat thing. It goes into a lot of things that deal with quantum mechanics. So
Right.
there was two models that were purported to express how this occurs. One was called the hidden variable model, which was that maybe there's just something about the system we don't know. There's some variables that may exist that we're not aware of. Okay, for long technical reasons that I'm not even that really familiar with, but I know that the hidden variable model was discounted, and they go what's called the Copenhagen interpretation is more common, and that you have you have a wave function and nothing is determined until you actually observe it, then it's collapsed, right? Well, based upon that modeling, the model is such in QM is that the information to describe the system of when this decay is going to take place does not even exist until the decay actually takes place. In other words, it truly is a system where you have a random event, a effect that has no cause.
So you're saying the effect that has no cause?
The effect is that there's a radioactive decay. It produces the beta particle, the electron. It produces the antineutrino. So it decays into a different state. Carbon, nitrogen, that's how that decays. So that is a something that comes into existence. These electrons and the neutrino, or antineutrino as the case may be, will come into existence. It will have an effect of something, but there is no cause for that effect. It just happens completely. I like the term irreducibly. How is it? It's irreducibly. God damn it! I just told somebody this the other day and I really like the way I put it, but I can't remember how I put it. Irreducibly. So anyways, it has to do with time. It's basically you cannot determine when that thing is going to decay. So you have to be able to say because the information is not there, the effect is without the cause. That's how it's understood in quantum.
It's a spontaneous decay and it's random. You can't predict. You can't put in. There's no mathematical equation to describe or predict when it's going to occur.
Okay, and this is called a radiation decay. Is that what you called it? Because I'm gonna look more into this so that I can.
Radioactive decay.
Okay, and
spontaneous fission is the same way.
I'm sorry.
If you have a spontaneous fission, it's the same way. You can have something spontaneously go through fission. Usually, if you like uranium-235, it'll absorb what's called a thermal neutron and it'll split. It'll actually just break apart and it'll form what's called fission fragments. Usually, it's like promethium, samarium, xenon, and whatever elements, and then you have a couple of neutrons that are produced. Well, these uranium-235 could actually just go into spontaneous fission out of nowhere, just poof, gone, and it splits. It's a random event. It has no cause.
Well, I think what I mean by whatever begins to exist has a cause, and I'm not trying to change the definition of how it is. This is how I've always thought of it to be. When I'm talking about whatever begins to exist that has a cause, I'm talking about things that literally come into existence, like the radiation decay. For instance, I actually wanted to ask you this beforehand, but it kind of went south from there last time we talked. I was wanting to know, just in more simpler terms, what is the I can't think of what does it do exactly. I guess that's the best way I can answer it. Like I'm trying to get a better understanding of it because what I'm talking about with here is for instance the only two that I could ever think of that began to exist without a cause is abstract objects. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that, which are just like numbers and symbols. Pretty much.
Plato forms.
Right. Yeah. And like so. Yeah, so there's those that do not have, but does not have a cause. But with these, they come into how we get the gravitational constant, Planck's constant, massive electron, proton, neutron. You know, those are used for like to understand the laws of physics of how things works and everything within our universe. So there's that, and the other one that does not have a cause. For one, I just want to make a quick reference. I mean, can we agree, or I mean, y'all can disagree with me, that the universe could not have created itself because the definition of the universe is all time, space, and matter. You can check it up yourself. I looked it up actually just the other day, what it said on the website. And it said all time, space, and matter. So whatever did create the universe had to have been had to have been timeless, spaceless, and immaterial since because the reason I say that is because if the universe created itself, that means that it existed before it. Before it existed, it didn't exist at the same time it did not exist. I don't know how to word it right, but y'all get what I'm saying, right?
Sure. Hunter, can I ask you a quick question about the collab?
Yeah, fine. Sure.
Can the universe be uncaused?
Me personally, I don't believe so. Just because it just comes into logical saying that whatever begins to exist. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Begins to exist has a cause, and I just still stick with that. But I don't think it could because it comes into the question of why does the universe exist? Is it necessary or is it, Steve? We use different words for this, or does it exist contingently? So I personally believe that it cannot exist without a cause.
Okay. My follow-up question now: do you think God can be uncaused?
Yes.
Why?
Well, like I said, I had to look more into the Aristotle Galileo because whatever created, if the universe is all time, space, and matter, that means whatever did cause it is timeless, spaceless, and material. One of the words there is timeless, which means infinite, which is where I believe that God is just literally infinite. He's infinite in time. He has no beginning. So, I mean, that's just my basic understanding of it. I still have a lot of learning to do, so that's just where I'm at right now.
By the way, I love Abraham's question on that, but the biggest defeater I can give you on that is when you say timeless, spaceless, and all that. The reality is, when you're talking at T0, those concepts don't even exist. There's no such thing as timeless or spaceless. They are just concepts that do not even exist at that point. So it's not just timeless. It's that time doesn't even exist. There's no concept for any of these things. Now, if you want to say that the kalam, the initial thing that everything begins to exist as a cause, and you talk about a material cause, rather than, as I think it was Aristotle that came up with the different types of causes. He had, was it essential cause, material cause, fixed cause, and I can't remember the other one, contingent or something. But so I'm saying that, if you want to say that it has a material cause, I'm probably not against that, and it would naturally flow systagonically that the conclusion follows from the premise. It's logically sound argument in that way. But to make the jump that it had a material cause to God that's where the flaw comes in. And that's why William never really gets any traction on these arguments.
Right, it would actually be, also to add to what Steve said, it would actually be a category error, equivocating, like, for example, a carpenter creating, I don't know, a wooden gavel or something, to equivocate that with the beginning of the universe, because there was no material, there was no space, time didn't exist before the universe, and to even say that sentence, that something could exist before the universe began, is completely illogical and senseless, because time began once the universe did. So
yeah, it's the Big Bang is in a sense people always think of it. You got this box, and inside you got the the expansion of space and time and so forth. Think of it as the box itself, you know,
Times of physical
inflating.
expanded fabrication.
That's
Yeah,
better
so we can agree that if we accept the premises that the conclusion the Kalam follows, I don't think anybody really argues that. The Kalam is not an illogical argument. It doesn't really tell you anything. Like I fully agree it's a category error.
Right.
And that way.
And
But
not only that, but additionally, I think who was it that came up with it? William Lane Craig.
No, he didn't come up with it. It actually comes from a philosopher
He
with
modified
the
it,
last
right?
name.
It is
Well, I guess you can say he modified it.
he added more to it in order to get the result he wanted. That the only way to get around the infinite regress and prime mover would have been God, and that's his conclusion. But that has been thoroughly debunked. That argument has been wrecked over the coals by actual logic experts and people that actually study philosophy. It does not hold water. Now they both say that the Quran is logically sound, and it is. But once he takes it and bastardizes it, then that's where. And he's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the guy knows his shit. So I think he has to know that he's making a mistake. I just don't think he cares. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. One thing I do want to add. You said earlier that there is no such thing as timeless. Now, if the definition of the universe is all as time and space and matter, then doesn't that mean before the universe that there was no time? Because
no time. Time didn't exist before the universe. You can't.
The whole concept. I'm sorry. Go ahead. The whole concept of before the universe is nonsensical. It makes no sense to even say that.
Right. Because so when you just really quick. So when you think about time, typically you think about it. A causes B causes C. Those things have to function within time. So if you don't have time, you can't have processes going on. If you don't have time, things can't happen literally. When you say that something exists before time, that it just doesn't make sense. There's no time for the processes to occur.
Can I give you a little a really kind of a simple mathematical analogy? Does anybody care?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. One of the big pet peeves I have in math is people trying to say that 0.99 repeating is less than 1. If you go to my Google page, before I even got into evolution, I was on mathematical videos explaining to people that 0.99 equals 1, or 0.99 repeating equals 1. And one of the things that people would respond back is they have this weird number, 0.000 repeating decimal, ellipsis, point, 1. So basically 0.000 ... 1, right? Well, what they're basically saying is that you have an infinite amount of zeros, and then you have 1, which can exist. It makes no sense to say there's a 1 after infinity, because there is no such thing as after infinity. It doesn't make any sense. It's nonsensical. That's what you're doing. Only the opposite. You're saying what is before this. There's nothing that even makes sense to say there is before, because there is nothing before. Just like that 1 doesn't exist after infinity. It's the same principle. It just doesn't exist.
Okay, that's logical. I understand that. So I mean, that you got me on that one. So I mean, not much I can say else on that one.
You're not going to go to the modal ontological argument now, are you? Just kidding.
I'm sorry?
The modal ontological argument? That's the one that runs something like, if God didn't exist, there would be no objective morality. If objective morality exists, therefore God exists. I might be a little off.
That is like, an argument that I used, but I actually wasn't going to go to it. But
well, all these arguments are pretty well, water in the bridge for the most part. We've all heard them before. We've all heard. I mean, these are nothing new. I'll tell you what, it's never going to convince anybody that really has a kind of even a basic understanding of these topics. I think if you want to convince people to have faith, do it because of faith. Do it because there's a reason to believe in God that you think, and give them the reasons why you think. Just to have faith, because if you go from trying to prove God, you're never going to win.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, one thing I wanted. Well, I mean, when you talk about the moral argument, how do you explain that on your part? Like, because I really was not planning on going on objective morality, but I mean, since we brought it up, I might as well see what y'all think, how y'all explain it. Because I mean, me personally, I don't think you can have morality without a God. But I want to hear y'all's point of view from it.
well, are you saying that in order for you to have morality, that you require being a deity? Or I would specifically say the objective morality based upon the Bible, because I think that to have objective morality, it has to be written down. So I think it has to exist somewhere. It has to be tangible, a tangent thing. So a tangible thing. So let's go with that. We'll call it the Christian Bible. Again, I'm not anti-religious and I'm not anti-theist. I'm not even atheist. I'm against the creationist position. I believe their deity does not exist because if he supports creationists, because that to me is nonsense. But the whole concept of God, I'm fine with. So, but to have objective morality, you're saying that if you did not have that, you would be immoral?
No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, in order to, I'm pretty much just saying like you cannot say where you get your objective morality authority from. Like for instance, people say that it's by the individual, it's by the evolutionary process, which I've heard before. Not very much, but I mean I've heard that before through society. And just all of this just doesn't like really much add up because it's still you still gotta wonder who is the one that's right and who is the one that's wrong.
Let me finish this here real quick. MMA, I know I think you want to get in. Let me finish this because this is a really good point. His salient. You just said that if there was not objective morality, you would still be moral. You would not be immoral, correct?
I'm still saying you can be moral. Yeah, totally.
Okay, so if you can be moral without objective morality, you've just destroyed your argument. Because objective morality is not required to be moral, and therefore subjective morality can exist, and you can still be moral.
Well, I think there's a confusion in our definitions. When you say that you can be moral, I'm saying like you can still be a good person.
I'm not talking about I'm talking about morality itself. If you just admitted that it is not required to have objective morality to be moral, because you said you would not be immoral if it doesn't exist. Well, I'm not immoral. I'm not immoral, and I don't have to have objective morality to do that. So therefore, I have morality. And I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. There was a confusion there. What I'm saying is that if you do not believe, like I've talked to a lot of atheists, and they do not believe in objective morality. But I'm not saying that you still cannot be a good person. That's what I mean by like for instance, when you say immoral, to me that's like saying you're you don't care about other people's morals. You're being immoral. You don't. You just pretty much do whatever you want. You don't care about anybody else, and you do what you think is right. And so that's what I mean. So I think there was a confusion there. But what I'm saying is like, just because you don't believe in objective morals, I still think that you can be a moral good person. So that's what I mean by that.
Okay, then what's the argument then? If people live their life with subjective morality, then what's the problem?
Well, my question is where do you get your authority of objective morality? Like, who gets to decide who's right and who's wrong?
We have something called a conscience.
Yeah,
doesn't society decide that? I mean, whenever you get a collection of people together, I mean, sooner or later they have to figure out that they have to establish some rules to keep chaos, things going into chaos. I mean,
yes.
And when they talked about evolutionary, the history of human evolution, when they started developing tools, Hunter, you think that if they started killing each other with tools and they had, found out that this could cut open kill an animal, that if they started killing off each other, that would be productive to the society?
Wait, can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
When they started developing tools and they realized these tools can kill animals, like, I'll say a hammer, not a real hammer, but you know what I'm talking about, a rock, a blunt device. Or even a spear or a javelin or whatever sharp object. When they discovered that these things could kill animals and they did this for food, don't you think they kind of quickly realized if they start killing off their own kind, they're going to have less people to hunt, less people to gather, less people to survive, to strengthen numbers. So this was a societal thing from way back when, that we have some kind of imposed thing that we realized it's not good to go out and kill everybody. It's not good to go out and rape everybody. It's not good to go out and steal from everybody. These are things we've understood as not good for society.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes.
Yeah, and hold on, Hunter, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
We do see this in animals as well, particularly in meerkats. We consider them primates, but also notably in meerkats. They're very family orientated, and so you can see a lot of what we have in the animal kingdom. It's not far fetched, and evolutionary psychology goes right into this kind of discussion. So,
And now the doctor
and then it says
disappeared, and
to
he's
have
directly over the
objective
coals.
morality. Yeah, and with quote unquote objective morality, in a sense, it's subjective. Like we do know, there's tribes out there that are very isolated. And for example, there's one that was made contact in like 2008, and they had to get vaccines because sort of got something. But anyway, yeah, they have their own subjective thing. So it is subjective, but the societies that we live in first world countries and second world nations and so forth, are pushing to more of a quote unquote objective thing. Like we have guidelines and rules and so forth to make everything more cohesive and work well. Is it objective? Yes, but different societies have slightly different rules here and there, of course. But they're trying, and these things have been argued for on society. Society itself has adapted and changed, put these laws into place, and to put these things so on and so forth. So it is society's, argumentation and experimentation and so forth that we have what we have now. So it's a bit of both.
Well, what I can say to that though, if it is determined by societies, then who, like for instance, when it comes to, and I just use this example a lot. When it comes to Hitler and the Nazis, if it comes to society, then that means that if it's determined by society, that means Hitler was right according to their society.
Man, dude, I haven't said anything in a long time, but come on, man, don't go with the Hitler thing, man. That's not even.
Argument.
I can see where he's going with
Yeah, I get where he's going, but really, Hitler.
It made sense. No, hold on. It did make sense to them. However, it was detrimental to the society because it put others a second human, or not even human in some of the cases. And even a lot of them actually didn't agree with it.
You gotta understand, societal just maybe one factor.
It may not be
an all-inclusive thing, just a society. You can't just say it's all society-based. That's just one factor that goes. And morality is a very complicated thing. It's not just society. There's a lot of things that go into this.
Oh, and just real quick, I just want to
argument upon.
Yep. Well, real quick, if I can just say something real quick, just so everybody knows, I'm not here to offend anybody. I really am sincere about my questions and everything.
You're fine, Hunter. You don't have to apologize. You're fine. Everybody here is grown-ups except for one person here.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify, just to be sure, because
we all got you. You ain't gonna offend us. I mean, you're on a good wavelength, and the doctor's here, and he's actually really heavy into philosophy, and he's probably gonna tell me how full of shit I am now. But I mean, if you ever want to go in deep column shit, I mean, he's the man to actually go to. This is kind of his little niche thing. But maybe he wants to chime in about objective morality and the column real quick. Hey, Doc.
That's fine. If he wants to get in, that's fine. Actually, let me try to see if I can get my camera to work. That way y'all can see my pretty little face.
Doctors are always like, yes, Steve, you're wrong. Yep, you're wrong. Yeah, you're wrong. You're an idiot. Yeah, you're wrong.
Yeah, see if I can get this. Can y'all see me?
Yeah.
Cool. Hello.
So what do you think so far, Doc? Are we on the same, are we explaining it to Hunter pretty well? You may have to reload, Doc.
Muted.
He was unmuted.
Yeah, no. It's working now.
There we go. All right, go ahead and talk while you're talking. I can hear you though. I got it.
No, I jumped in when I heard the claw mentioned, and then I guess there was a lag, and I missed the latter half of the what seemed to be a moral discussion. What was the original question being asked? Where do we get our moral facts from?
What was it that I said? That where does the ultimate moral authority come from? And people say society, And I mentioned Hitler, but somebody said something that, like, I don't know. I don't know. I was just wondering to see where y'all guys thought about where you get your morality from, like authority-wise, like ultimate authority of morality.
Well, the ultimate
OECD.
authority would depend. If someone is a moral realist or a moral anti-realist. If you're an anti-realist, it depends on your particular views. But from a moral realist perspective, it would be the actual facts, the actual moral facts that correspond with reality.
Why does there have to be an ultimate authority for morality? I mean, isn't it sufficient just to have an agreement among society to establish some ground rules for acceptable behavior?
Well, I think that when it comes down to it, it ultimately says who is right and who is wrong. For instance, like...
Well, that can be a group decision. Isn't that where our morality basically comes from, is group decisions?
Yeah, in a lot of cases, I can use the OECD guidelines for animal testing and so forth, which I've painstakingly had to go through.
Well, it develops through us. It develops through our experiences and our understanding. We do experiment with morality. We often get it wrong.
Yeah, because what I was going to say, because he made a point that, you know, if it comes from groups, then, I mean, you have to take in a society reformer like Martin Luther, where he, you know, the whole thing with that and everything. So, I mean, it's just like, you know, if that was just one person starting off how to...
What do you know about Martin Luther?
That he pretty much...
The Reformation, right?
I don't know if I've ever used the word Reformation, but I guess it's to where, like, you know, equal, you know, black, whites, equal people, you know, we're all...
You're confusing Martin Luther with Martin Luther King Jr.
Martin Luther King Jr.
I'm sorry, I meant King Jr. That was my bad.
Well,
Yeah,
some morality...
I was talking about Martin Luther King Jr.
Isn't some morality evolving? I mean, consider slavery. You know, 200 years ago within the United States, it was perfectly acceptable.
Yep.
Look at a lot of the way things that are accepted now that weren't accepted 20 years ago because attitudes of people change, right? It's called evolution, man. You know. Yeah. I mean, I remember when, you know, it was acceptable to make fun of certain people because of who they were, what they were, things like that. Totally acceptable. You could go out and beat people up for this and get away with it, right? Now, some of these people are actually getting prosecuted, you know, because they've realized through the evolution of morality of what we accept and what we don't accept in society, you know, how we accept things, you know, and what we do, you know. So no God required, you know.
Evolution. One of the best discussions I had on morality, I think, was I hate to say it, but it was actually with D.P.R. Jones.
With who?
I mean, love him or hate him, the guy's entertaining. I like D.P.R. Jones. I mean, he's just very fun to talk to. And are you familiar with the trolley problem, Hunter?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Are you familiar with the trolley problem?
No.
Again, I'm eating real quick. I'm going to give you the basics, and then there's a billion different derivations. I'm sure the doc knows quite a few of them. So I'm going to give you the basic version of it, and then you can discuss it. But the basic version goes something like this. And it was actually a trolley, but I'm going to make it a train, okay? But there's a train, and you're the conductor and the engineer, and you're on the train, and it's going, you know, 100 miles an hour. And down at the end of the railroad tracks, there's a switch in the road, and there's one switch where it's going to go to the right and one to go to the left. And there's a family of 5 to the right on one of the tracks, and then there's a big fat man on the left side of the track. And there's a reason why it's a fat man. It goes in the danger. It's not things, you know.
You hate fat people.
Yeah. So, okay. So the question is posed: do you switch to go the trolley to the right and kill the 5 people, or do you switch it to the left and kill the fat man? What is morality, and what do you think you should do in that situation?
Oh gosh, that would be a... I guess I would really just come down to the very last second. I don't know. That's a tough one for me. I'll probably just go for the one guy and save the other 5.
And that's the most common answer, obviously. Okay. Then it starts getting harder. Okay, that's just the initial part of the question. The trial column then goes into, okay, you're now on the platform, and you see this train go out of control going 100 miles an hour, and at the same thing, there's a family of 5 down the road, but there's no switch. It's just a family of 5 down the end of the track. But there's a fat man standing on the platform, and ignoring all laws of physics.
Couldn't it be like a short midget or something?
No,
you know,
I mean, it's got enough momentum to stop the train. This is where the physics. This is where the violence.
Oh, okay, math and stuff. Okay.
Yeah. So the fat man's on the platform, and now the question is, morality-wise, do you push the fat man into the path of the train to stop the train, killing him in order to save the family of 5? Same situation as before, but instead of you being the conductor, where you switch between the two, you now have to make the choice to physically push him to kill him.
I would push him.
Same outcome. The consequentialism is the same. The man dies. The family of 5 is saved. So consequently, because you know what consequentialism is, the outcome is exactly the same thing, but you see a moral difference there. And then
Yes.
I'm gonna mute myself, and I'm gonna eat, and then you and the doctor can engage in this because I know he knows this problem.
I like the alternative problem more, because a lot of people will say that screw it, the man's fat, push him over.
No, I look at it just like
the alternative problem is it's the same thing.
Yeah, the physical comedy part of that says, yeah, that'd be pretty fucking funny. But I don't think, like the kid said earlier, I really don't. These are things that you really can't say what you'll do until you're in that situation. I've never been in exactly that situation, but I've had to make a few decisions in my life that I had nothing like a train coming, trust me. But I literally had, and this affected somebody's life, in the end, the quality of their life and stuff like that. I literally had 10 seconds to make 3 decisions, right? You really honestly don't know a lot of times what you're gonna do. Sometimes you don't do anything. Right, you freeze. Sometimes you do the wrong thing, and but that's only by retrospect what you could have done if the other thing didn't happen. So, yeah,
absolutely.
What's right? It's a lose-lose, win-win situation. Somebody wins, somebody loses, everybody loses.
Yeah, well, the point of these are not to actually come up with a real answer. It's to really gauge your moral intuitions. Like an MMA artist says that, he'd push easy, and the alternative version to the same dilemma is 5 people come into an emergency room because there's been a horrible train accident. And each of them need a different organ. And there's a man in the waiting room asleep, and you're the doctor.
It's gotta be a fat man. You gotta be a fat man, yeah. You gotta be a fat man for this variation.
Do you, as a doctor, kill that man waiting in the room?
Don't let somebody come in.
Save the 5.
Here real quick.
That's like the Fat Man music, from Family Guy.
There is actually a distinction to be made in that problem. In the first, Ozzy touched on it in one of the hangout.
Physics.
It's actually in the first scenario where you just switch the track and you kill the one man. If that man hadn't been there, no one would have died, so his death is an unfortunate consequence of that decision. In the other one, you are deliberately killing him in order to save 5 people, and that's what makes the 2 situations feel so radically different.
Right. So, on that note...
Oh, Ernie, you picked bad timing, man.
Why?
Because I would love to engage with Ernie, because he's absolutely wrong on so many things. But I'm really enjoying my conversation with Hunter. So I mean, I don't want to get put on the ground when I got actually not.
I just came in because
I'm sorry.
I had come in because of Steve's hypothetical that I just heard him that I just heard him making right now regarding the train and flipping the switches off, and I don't guess I would have any other options if you kind of box this hypothetical in, but I just choose to not choose. I would choose to not switch the switch at all because I didn't start the train in motion, and it wouldn't have been my decision to not make it.
There's another problem with that. If you decide not to, then you're still at the consequence of by your actions.
Yeah, you're
still
in
that
action.
family.
Consequential, real world.
Right, but it was about morality. It was about your
if
morality.
You're choosing not to flip the switch, you're allowing for 5 people to die. You are killing 5 people by omission.
I would call 911. I just witnessed an accident. I wouldn't even go, oh my gosh, I could have saved that, because something like that is going to happen so fast. You're not going to have that chance to measure. It was chances are you're not going to have a chance to do a fucking thing.
Patrick, this is not a real world situation. Obviously, this is a thought experiment. It's not. It doesn't really go to decision-making ability. It's a matter of what choice would you make. You can take as long as the time as you want to think about it. I mean, this is again a thought experiment. It's not a real, obviously, situation. But it gauges, where do you think your morality stops? If you take somebody's life to save other people, is that moral?